Surprise! It's time for the match. It's time for people that aren't gonna be a surprise, right? That we've been watching for a while, that we've been hyping up. One of them already qualified, another still biting at the bit to make it there. Let's get some Commonwealth love. Is this gonna be Canada versus Britain? Wam versus RecoN on your screen now.
Wam in command of the Abbasids in blue. RecoN using the ruse from the right side with the color red. We talked about this one in the pregame, KP, that in a way, this is a matchup that's relatively favorable for the ruse, but it really depends on how exactly they approach this, how aggro they are going to go, and how greedy Wam is going to play this one. So really, thorough scouting obviously will play a big role over here, but even bigger is going to be the mindset of the players, possibly even the playstyle of the players playing into this matchup.
Yes, and I'm wondering if RecoN is going to try for that greedy build. Like, it's still in my mind. I've seen a few players trying for like the pre-TC boom up for the Roos in these type of matchups. It sounds really dicey. I wouldn't recommend it against the Abbasids on this map, but there are situations where it is somewhat desirable. By the way, is this... No, it's different. Okay, for a moment, this generation looked incredibly similar to one we had earlier today.
It's surprising. It didn't remind me to any of the ones that we have had before, so...
I think it was the south side, like Wam spawn, the area, because you had the cliff side on the center, and then you had one in the western corner. It is different, though. It is different.
Yeah, it's vastly different. It's a very balanced matchup, though. In fact, you could maybe argue that the woodline spawns are better for Wam, but if you take a look at the relic spawns, those seem fairly consistent. Berries, pretty nice and even. Hunt distribution, a little weird.
Yeah, what in the ball has happened here? Like, is Pumbaa and Pemba trying to meet up in the south there? Because, I mean, if I wanted reasons to go for a ball play as a Roost player, I definitely got them this game.
You could actually lure them close to the forest in the middle, and you could have a hunting cabin between two forests.
There you bingo.
Two boars.
Not just a TC. No, that's justifiable TC right there, because you pull one boar, you gather, and then you, like, once you have 8 more villagers, you pull the other boar, and you gather. Boom!
True. That's pretty big. It's pretty far away from the base of RecoN, though.
Nah, you just do it. No balls, no glory. Like, what's the Abbasid player gonna do? Build a horseman and chase? Yeah, so it's a fair point. But if he built horseman and chased me, he wouldn't be building TCs.
True. Or you could use the Abbasid TCs to block both boars. How about that?
That's great. I love that idea. And then you drag the boars in, and you kill them, and then you realize that you're vegetarians.
You get the feel that he's just going to have a much more condensed space. I'm actually curious at his hunt spawns, because that's going to be an interesting factor to look at. One of them is very much to the north, right next to the sacred site, close to those cliffs. Where's the second hunt at for Wam? It's to the front of his base, right at the bottom of that cliff. Not so sure if that is a favorable second TC spot for him, to be honest.
I think he might play towards the first... Yeah, the first tier is really good. And then he plays the second one south side to secure the gold. I think he wants to do that as well, because the alternative is you push north and you just basically play away from where RecoN wants to play. RecoN, by the way, if he does ever extend down for those boars, like, just think of the value in the area. Plenty of gold veins around, plenty of wood lines. Also the deer to the right side. So I think it would make a lot of sense to go for a TC pull here. We'll know for sure if he pulls 10 villages.
Yeah. Also the relics. And just in general, the map control, because if you take a look at the middle of the map, you have a cliff right next to a forest. So this central pathway between the players is blocked by the cliff. So players will have to move through the flanks. So having a TC there on the right side would be a very good sort of forward-based sort of fortification, I guess. At least something that gives you line of sight on enemy forces coming in from that side.
Yeah, I think it's just more the case, like, whenever you go for these aggressive TC placements, your opponent has to respond to it. He can't go for your base. It's very difficult. Even for a Civ that's going to spam Horseman, because the alternative is the Roost player. If he sees you're spamming Horseman but you won't fight him, just put a few Knights to go in, and they'll just dent your economy. So, and there'll definitely be plenty of that economy, considering an Abbasid player typically goes, on average, 3.68 TCs on Liberty.
Exactly 3.68.
Look, no one has access to the stats to prove me wrong here. All right, that's all I'm gonna say.
Well, you don't have access to stats that would prove you right either, so...
That's true, but the burden of proof is not upon me right now. You've made an accusation that I am lying, and you, sir, must disprove.
Innocent until proven guilty, right? Stables now coming out from both sides. Knights and Horsemen making their first appearance.
Yeah, scout count, of course, higher for RecoN, so if he does want to go for that play on the ball, it'll still be protected, but instead it looks like he shrugs his shoulders and says, no. Gonna be playing condensed. The benefit of doing so means your Knights are free to just go and chip away at your opponent's eco, but does feel like a missed opportunity, really. And interesting change up here. So RecoN, feeling somewhat threatened by what's being revealed, switches from the Wooden Fortress, preps more defenses early on.
I'm not... Oh, he's... Wait a second.
Huh?
It's a reaction to Wam canceling the stable. Wam went from a stable to a barracks, and as a response, the Wooden Fortress gets cancelled, and he's going to replace it with a range.
Oh, that's actually brilliant. People don't typically do that. I thought that was just more to do with the revelation on his side, so he felt extra threatened, but it's not that RecoN feels threatened. It's that he realizes that Wam will not be threatening. So instead, he wants to be the aggressor. That's actually a really heads-up play. I love that from RecoN. That's so important in this matchup, because we really highlighted the Abbasids. Yeah, if you try to get an eco race and that's it, they're going to come out ahead.
Yeah, look at that, the stone mine being denied. Only 22 stone in the bank here for Wam. And there is already some scouts, one knight and archers coming in to deny that. And as much as we talked about this one in the previous matchups featuring the Abbasids, the goal here is not to completely deny that town center. The goal is just to delay it. And so far, RecoN is doing a terrific job with that.
Yep, already forces the stables to come out. Now, Wam, of course, won't run out of food anytime too soon. The berries are on the backside. But considering he's up against Knights, there is a risk that he gets intercepted there, especially if the archers get through that first few spears. Well, for now, RecoN, of course, one thing to consider is if he wants to go for the secondary TC, he would have delayed his own timing by cancelling that Wooden Fortress. It's still accessible, though.
Spearman now popping out. First Horseman making an appearance. Not a single Spearman from RecoN just yet, so he's not going to have a direct answer to the Horseman. And we've talked about this one a million times before. Horseman plus Spearman will eventually beat the Knights and Archer comp, for at least once you have a sufficient amount of Horsemen. Only one Horseman on the field though for Wam, and this is delaying his second TC quite a bit. And you see that he's also running out of sheep under his town center, so this expansion is getting concerning for Wam.
It gets more concerning when he gets forced to go for a secondary stable before he even gets his second TC. This is a heavy delay for the Abbasids, and RecoN is definitely extracting value out of his investments.
He's also banking up resources. I think RecoN knows fully well that at this point, Wam is going to have to take a fight sooner rather than later because he needs to expand. He needs that stone, he needs additional sources of food. So here, what RecoN could be gambling on is that he's just sticking with the 3 knights, 3 archers he has, and going for Castle Age behind this one, or a second TC. Looks like he is going for a second TC, but wouldn't be surprised to see him even try to rush Castle Age over here, knowing that Wam still has other issues to deal with.
Interesting. He plays full turtle mode on his own TC format. The logic here is he doesn't need to worry about defending it. He can just full aggress, but this does mean that he's not getting additional value. I would have loved to at least see him extend out onto the deer stack to the west, because one big issue for RecoN long term is going to be food. Doesn't have anything in reserve, right? You don't want to be going farms early on.
Yeah, it's a little risky out there. Ooh, beautiful pinch by the Spearman.
A little bit poking prodding. But we'll get away in time. Spearman just dances the tomb right now, but not the Horseman. The Horseman peel off. Wam now heading towards RecoN's base. Opportunities might open up, or if they'll be limited due to the condensed nature of the Roos layout.
And the barracks as well. Wam doesn't have a single archer to deal with spearmen, so RecoN can afford to just defend with a few spears, detach the knights coming for raids, and pin Wam inside his base. That's exactly what he's doing right now.
Yeah, goes in, stops the house from going up, takes down one villager, and Wam, well, we'll need to address that unless he wants to be pop-capped. Meanwhile, on the other side, we can see Wam has gone for a long, wide wrap here. Does have the scout, so he sees where he needs to go. But, I mean, where do you go in this base? Like, the only accessible thing really is that wood line, and that wood line, you have to dive past so many buildings.
Look at that, second TC just not being dropped. We are at the 9-minute mark with the second TC now coming in. RecoN already has his own second TC working. He's spinning his opponent inside his base, and if he gets a couple of spearmen out, he can deal with those horsemen as well. Trying to get some walls up on the left side to limit the movement of Wam.
Interesting. So far, it's only walls north side for RecoN. There's still that opening to the south. I wonder if he's planning to move towards this boar eventually, once it becomes a kind of condensed battlefield. Does need to be careful because the Abbasids at the end of the day can build a bigger army, but
Look at
Yeah,
the
it
stone
is.
KP. There's
No,
the
no,
third
this
one.
is, no. Yeah, this is close though. He's not. Think about the second TC. If he wasn't gonna do it with the second one,
Yeah.
he's not gonna do it with the third. He just wants the deer because I mentioned he was gonna run out of food. So once again, RecoN's trying to focus fully on aggression by not having to worry about defending home.
Yeah, this will be easily scouted by Wam over here. He lost his scout, but the horsemen are heading in that direction. Still, though, it is going to be a 3 versus 2 town center game.
That's the thing. You can scout this all you want, but what do you do as Wam now? We can gather for another TC, but you're already behind, and you know it. So now you get forced to commit, and that's why RecoN wants this condensed style, is Wam can't get in.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the thing here is that you see, Wham's got some spearmen on the field, but those are not here right now. Some of them are just pinned inside his base because he had to defend against those knights. And this is once again buying time for RecoN. And Wham's reaction is going to be to drop a third TC himself, but he's the one playing the reactionary role here. And that's never good with the Abbasids. When you play catch up with town center numbers using the Abbasids, that's a bad sign.
You feel that this third TC, he's going to go into it, and by the time he's somewhat insulated, Castle Age should be achieved by RecoN, right? I think that's the difference here.
Yeah, something along those lines. Or RecoN can just wait for him to push. Because if you think about how Abbasids play their games most of the times, they build on the fact that they usually have the better eco and just wait for the opponent to push. Now RecoN could do the same thing because he has got the better eco. He can just wait for his opponent to push. He's got enough resources inside his base and like at the back with all those berries, the forests, for him to just wait for Wam to push and then take a good fight close to those wooden fortresses, for example.
So another problem is, oh god. So he gets scouted out. If he folds this fight entirely, then that's just gonna get attacked. The other issue I was about to highlight is this TC is so far out, and it doesn't actually get that much. It's a new woodline and a berry patch, right? But think about the idle time of walking out here to build this up, and the risk associated with doing this, versus going for a more condensed format.
Yeah, it's a lot of idle time when it comes to walking. It is not going to be threatened directly, but I agree with you. The big thing here is that he's already down by almost 10 villagers. And then you have to walk a ton of time to get that third TC up for the sake of securing those berries. It is going to pay off eventually, but it is a big hit on the eco of Wam right now, something that he might not be able to afford. Though it looks like he might actually be faster to Castle Age with the resources he's stacking up.
Yeah, but that's always the trick with the Abbasids. Are you really faster to Castle Age? You can start teching up, but you can't change the time it takes to do so. So watch out for RecoN. He can still actually hit a good timing. The other issue is RecoN could just double down on now. Spear's looking good, archer count looking good, knight count also looking a bit spooky. Wam does make the correct choice here though. He goes into Camel Archer to offset the damage to those knights.
Yeah, RecoN is playing this game with the Rus very reminiscent to how many French players would play this one. It's a slower paced, eco-focused game, relying mostly on knights and archers, and as you said, possibly even delaying his own Castle Age for the sake of sticking around in feudal and putting some pressure on the opponent.
Oh, hello, honey. Chip one away, idle a little bit eco and run his way out. Now the horseman could easily cut him off here. The body blocks Wam, he's looking for it. RecoN, nice peel off. And not only will some get out, all will get out. I mean, that went as well as I think it could for a Roost player who looked royally screwed, so well played there.
Yeah.
Of course, a big issue with the Abbasids, I think there's another reason why they're so good right now, Lidakor, is their ability to body block with this horseman. And
that's a big thing.
Always massing horsemen.
And Wam now is in trouble. Look at the food count. He already has the food for Castle Age, but not the gold. His eco wasn't perfectly set up for this one, so he's gonna be floating a bunch of food, still yet to get the gold for Castle Age, and this is once again buying precious seconds for RecoN, who has a comparable army to his, not something that you commonly see when it comes to Abbasids. Usually the Abbasids have the numbers advantage by a massive margin, in fact.
Interesting thing about RecoN, I think he's invested in the farms because these numbers just don't make sense. He must have switched into farms already to keep it condensed eco. Okay, so berries.
No, he's on berries.
Wow. So I'm wondering where it went then. I mean, oh, well, that would be where it went. Like he's on berries instead of deer or farms, right? These are bad gathering rates. Really interesting approach that RecoN's taken to this matchup. A lot of players would have just played pocket ecos off of mid-map aggression, but in some ways it feels like he just came into this matchup assuming he wouldn't have mid-map control.
Yeah, like, if you think about it, the Abbasids, they want to force a decisive engagement. And I guess he was afraid that this decisive engagement could just easily knock him off from the boars. And he's playing a much more condensed eco and just not giving the fight that Wam is waiting for, really.
Wam's going to wait now, though. Tech up underway. RecoN has to be sniffing this out, surely. Something does not feel right. You're not being engaged. Your opponent's just standing there. What could he possibly be waiting for?
They know fully well that both players have 3 TCs, so they're pretty conscious about each player's eco boom here. And yeah, like Wam is hoping that RecoN is gonna push into him because logic would dictate that the Abbasid player is ahead in terms of eco. But this time around, that's not true, so RecoN has no desire to push into this one.
Although probing is forcing some awkward moves out of Wam. Now keep in mind, RecoN is waiting for the tech ups to come through. Getting that range damage upgrade, considering he's heavily leveraged into archers, will serve him well. And he's doubling down. I mean, this tech timing, Wam, he might be forced to take a fight ahead of time. The only thing that might offset that timing is the fact that there's no rams from RecoN, so no way of quickly breaching the TCs.
Or even the walls. RecoN is layering himself behind walls, and that's going to buffer this up quite well. So even if Wam gets to Castle Age faster, which seems very likely now, he won't be able to do a tremendous amount of damage unless RecoN has a blunder.
I mean, it's a tough one, right? Like in this situation, one weakness of RecoN still is his lack of good gathering rates on food. The bounty wasn't too bad for him this game, but that doesn't really make up for the deficit of having to be playing berries. I'm a little bit concerned about what happens in 2 or 3 minutes. If RecoN loses this fight, it's not just that, it's more than that though. Like what happens when he needs to go farms, because that time is coming. But for the moment, he's willing to take a good battle here. Offered up the opportunity. Knights are engaging against the spears. That's detrimental to him. The archers not able to clean up quickly enough. Wam down to 10 spearmen as it stands, but 11 knights still standing for RecoN. Just a little bit split across the map. Remember that Wam is on the defensive of the choke point, so hard to overwhelm him. Knights will at least keep the cavalry away, which means the archers can push back, but it's not good enough. Wam is going to realize the power of his tech up. Will get what he needs in Castle Age.
Will he, though? A lot of idle time could be there. You see 20 plus idols, and the archers are heading towards this expansion TC. I actually think this was a perfect timing by RecoN. He was waiting for Castle Age. He was waiting for his opponent to blink first, and then make this push here in Feudal.
That's true, but one big issue he does have is he's got a lot of archers. Mangonels are now in play, and he still hasn't addressed Wam's archer count, right? So that's something you have to consider. Like, the eco is definitely good for RecoN, but I think he needs to catch up to Castle fast.
Yeah, he needs to. He sees the Mangonel. He's going to have to pull back.
No, he's going to commit. I don't think he can walk away from this now. This is probably your best opportunity to take it out because there's no spears here. So the Knights should get easy access to the Mango and take that down more or less for free. Meanwhile, archers are going to be cleaned up. RecoN reads it perfectly with a double down. We'll wrap around. We'll clean up the army. Mango will go down as well. So his archers will be able to stand their ground. And Wam about to be in full total mode without access to food. This is concerning.
This is concerning, especially if you consider the fact that Wam is down by 20 eco here. Sure enough, he's in Castle Age, but he's got no standing army. That gold mine is being denied. And RecoN still has a substantial force on the field, numbering 40 plus units. And he's now on the way to Castle Age as well. This is terrible for Wam, really.
It's about to get worse. I mean, he only has limited food access, right? Like, look at the north side. He's playing reserve deer. He never went for the safe deer or berries. And this extension TC on the south side isn't insulated, isn't laid into your base. It doesn't even get the extra resistance from the Golden Age. So what could easily be coming next is a loss of an extra TC. And Wam at that stage will definitely remain behind in eco count.
And Wam is defending, so the escalation potential is there on the side of RecoN. He can start picking up the relics over here. He can start raiding once again. In fact, he's got a raiding party heading to the north.
Hello, Sunshine. Trying to build up the outpost, trying to rush it up fast enough. Difficult to do so, though. Just not enough room for all the villagers, so another chip away at the eco count, favoring RecoN even further, and this will probably draw attention home from Wam, which means that RecoN will get his tech up. There'll be no threat to him either.
Yeah, this is looking so good. I love the game plan of RecoN over here. He was waiting for the Castle Age. He knew that there was going to be a decisive engagement, but as long as both players are in Feudal, he can't afford to take it because he's just taking the risk of being overrun by better numbers. He sees the Castle Age, that's a sign that his opponent didn't spend all his resources on army, whereas he himself did. So that was his go-to mark. He knows fully well that that moment, he's going to have the numbers advantage. And this game plan is playing off so well because he managed to do a lot of damage to Wam here.
It looked like it shouldn't have been good at first, right? Like, he didn't necessarily clean up the horsemen on the south side. He threw away a lot of archers and left Wam with plenty of archers, but in reality, it was just a delayed assault. The second prong was coming in from RecoN. I think that's what was so astutely well played, is that he had a second wave in reserve that allowed him to keep on pushing in. He kept the pressure, contained the threat of Wam, and the tide of the Abbasids was not able to surge outward in this game. all of a sudden completely undefensive. And so many areas we are seeing this. Villagers running, fleeing for their life, and still no successful walling coming out from Wam.
Just think about the fact that usually this 17-18 minute mark is where the Abyssins come online. This is the death zone. This is where they increase their overall win rate up to 70%. And what are you seeing here from the Abyssid player? Just pain and agony, really, villagers running for their lives. This is how good RecoN's aggression was, completely throwing off all the timings of the Abyssids.
I mean, just look at it. Vodka had to stop drinking his martini just to look at all these different fights. They're everywhere. The amount of alerts that are flagging, Wam is just stuck defensively reacting to every single bloody one of these.
And the game plan is clear here for RecoN. Look at that. He's adding horse archers against an opponent which has a lot of horsemen, a lot of crossbows and archers. But he knows fully well that this game isn't going to be won on the battlefield. This is going to be won through raids. And that's exactly what he's prepping for.
Yeah, Wam came for war. RecoN came to work the stock market here. The numbers just speak for itself. He's so far ahead. And now even further. Villagers get caught out, raid down the center, but don't worry, RecoN isn't going to end him now. This is death by 1,000 cuts.
Indeed, he's just tearing him apart from all directions, and really limited chance for Wam to counterattack because his opponent RecoN has the walls up, and Wam himself severely lacking walls over here, struggling to keep track of all those forces raiding his eco non-stop.
The horse archers may be a little bit of a dangerous element if there was still a lot of archers being built by Wam, but it feels like he's been relegated in that regard. He's now transitioning back into mass archers, but you can even see RecoN just sidestepping elsewhere, going now into mass knights. Something that Wam actually doesn't have a good answer to. Crossbows and that's it.
Yeah, crossbows only indeed, but lack of mobility is still something that could easily haunt Wam over here, as it happened throughout this entire game. And you see, Imam will be denied as well from the relic. And this is the big problem for Wam. He can have a strong standing army with the archers and crossbows, but RecoN's base is safe behind walls, and he has the opportunity to just keep raiding with the high mobility army that he has.
Could you imagine losing as the Abbasids because your opponent massed heavy cavalry and you didn't have spears? Is that even legally allowed these days? I feel like that never happens, but it might be happening here. Wam still only has 2 spears. This knight count is going to double in the next minute and a half. At which stage, it will flood over this fight.
Yeah, that's it. Like,
wall up.
Get
out, get out, get out.
Oh, he can get out.
Oh, yeah, but it's going to be a high price. Few of the horse archers going down. Of course, the weakness of these units, they can't fight up against normie archers at all.
Ooh, beautiful keep, though, in the middle. That's going to give a lot of security for Wam. In a critical choke point, looks like it's also going up. No sign of RecoN having forces around to deny it.
But there is still flank points exposed. Remember, if you look on the north side, only one side has walled this. And it is not, for those who are colorblind, it's not the blue side.
Once again, so many opportunities for RecoN to raid. That's the big thing here. And you see, he can just sit behind his walls over here. He even has a defensive keep up. So the opportunity for counterattack is just so limited for Wam.
And keep in mind, he has enough for another keep as well. So he's not weak in that regard. He's set up to react if an opportunity presents itself. But now he's going to march through. He has got villagers on the front line, so he could go for an aggressive keep drop. He just needs the justification. If he could sneak in on the deer that Wam still hasn't taken, that's the perfect location.
Yeah, that could be juicy indeed. Looks like trenches are now being dug by both sides, but once again, Wam could be losing some villagers here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you just walled yourself out, sir. Whoops. Yeah, you're going to want to rush that one up.
Sacrifices were made.
Brain cells were lost and lives alongside it, so villagers going down. Wam is so busy elsewhere, he's not even pulling back because he's actually reacting to a deep dive into his base, which means he's losing villagers elsewhere as well.
Oh, this is just, once again, death by 1,000 cuts, as you say. Now RecoN at PopCap, and look at what he's doing with it. He's barely losing units, he's sitting on relics, he's got a fully boomed eco. He's gonna get to Imperial, and that's where the snowball really begins.
That's when he can transition more into military right now, because one weakness of him, of course, is he has a lot of eco. That's why he's not able to take a fight directly. That's why Wam is pushing. Problem with pushing like this...
Wait, hold the phone,
yes!
KP.
Yes!
Let's go!
Spasskaya Tower! Oh, yes, let's go. This is the part I was looking for. Spasskaya Tower got buffed. It's the first time we get to see it for those unaware. You can now build stone walls as the roost if you have Spasskaya Tower. That's why he's doing this, because Wam doesn't have the ability to play wide if there are stone walls in place.
Yeah, that's it. He's realizing the importance of the trench warfare. He's also realizing that over time, those palisades will be just still underwhelming against the army of Wam. He wants to give himself safety, especially because there's a big push into his base here all of a sudden.
That's the other thing, remember. This Muskai is juiced up at the beginning, so he's looking to just catch Wam off guard when he went on the offensive. Wam, who's now building into siege on the front line, but might get limited value out of it. This is a throwaway army, and it might be thrown away for next to nothing.
It looks scary for sure, but behind this one, keep in mind that Wam is also taking a big beating back at home, and you get the feel that if RecoN is able to clean this army up here, it might be game over for Wam.
It's wrapping around the backside, just a small group under the mango. Good trade out there. Slowing down Wam's timing, because remember, one big issue that Wam has is outside the mangonels, he has nothing to hit buildings with. That's a full ranged army over there. Yes, you heard me correctly. He decided to dive the enemy base with an entirely ranged army.
That is just so sad. And there's a horseman switch coming in here for RecoN, so in a few moments of time, he is gonna have something to deal with those archers, at least reasonably well. Dare I say he might even commit with the knights he has, because those are already elite. So he might be able to take a decent fight against those Castle Age crossbows.
Maybe. I think you just wait for the horseman, right? Like, your opponent is in your base with ranged only army. To emphasize it again, Lidakor, it is a ranged army only. Ah, there we go. Now you're worried. It's Wam Ram time.
You're saying that, but the Springolds are already out there, so they're going to make a quick work with those Rams. In fact, the Mangonels will also be gone, so that is indeed just going to be a full ranged composition here. No auxiliary units to help them.
Yeah, watching this army in the Roost base is kind of like one of those caption this, like, tell me you're desperate without saying you're desperate. Right? Look at it. It's really underwhelming. Like, the base is so well spread by RecoN that it's not going to idle enough eco to get value. Especially if you look on the other side, where RecoN has taken that same army value, spread it over 3 different locations, and idled 4 times the amount of villages.
I mean, he's torching down that DC with like 5 knights, so you can tell RecoN is doing as good as possible here. Finally coming in with the cleanup, has some archers as well to do this with. And behind this one, Wam is now losing that town center. He's going to lose that expansion to the south. He's still in Castle Age as compared to a pop-capped player in Imperial. I don't really see a way back here for Wam, to be honest.
I haven't seen a way back for 3 minutes, but Wam just wants to entertain us, at least show us that this doesn't work, as the range ball is going to be cleaned up on the backside and barely any new troops being built up, because Wam, he was trying to buy time. His only recovery point in his eyes was Imperial Age, but keep in mind, he doesn't even have the food yet. And even when he does, he's going to be 1 minute and 45 seconds away, and I think RecoN understands what's about to happen. He's going to have a golden opportunity to rush across the map and end this game.
And indeed, Wam now trying to go up to Imperial himself. He needs to do this. The problem is that it is going to take so much time for him to get up, and behind this one, he's completely exposed. He has some crossbows out there, but lack of mobility will now haunt him. Those knights ready to take down all the eco he has.
Yeah, I call them the Scooby Gang, as they like to split up and look for clues here. The clues are going to be related to murders. The murders of a lot of Abbasid citizens. Idle eco as well. More farms needed. Lack of space as well for Wam. It's just all falling to pieces now.
That's the bigger thing, right? A farm transition is yet to be made for Wam. He barely has a couple of farms functional. So even if he gets to Imperial, he's going to struggle with the food eco because he's getting pushed over from the berries.
Oh my god, this Roost player is cheating. How is he building walls? Stone walls. Spaskai Sour, baby. Now you're starting to see a little bit of value for, as he's starting to create a tomb for Wam. Oh, I love that. I love that he went Spaskai. I actually think that it's criminally, not criminally underrated. Well, actually, it's underrated though. It's never used. People aren't experimenting with it, but it's incredibly useful in the right hands. However, these walls are looking ambitious.
This is one of those instances where it really is useful because RecoN is playing trench warfare here. He knows he's got the advantage, so he just needs to play a slow-paced game where he keeps raiding. And in this scenario, especially on a map like Lipany, these stone walls are really paying for the investment.
And then also keep in the center are not going to last long for Wam. Keep in mind RecoN, at this rate, he could go for another keep if he keeps gathering the stone like he is. Instead, he's going to keep upgrading these wooden fortresses, though, to give the extra vision, so he can keep pushing in. He'll get the shortest route to his opponent's base, probably likely to transition into more of a slow-moving format, especially if he sees Wam doubling down on his camel riders now.
Yeah, he's going camel riders, actually. On the other side, it's going to be Horseman for RecoN. It's going to be good for raiding, but it's not going to be good for the front line. One has to wonder whether he is thinking about some Streltsy in the end. Not a single one of them added just yet.
His gold isn't really good enough for it right now. I think he just wants Siege instead. I actually prefer this approach.
Yeah, Horseman
right
Mangonel
now,
could work.
Yes, I think like the thing for him is Horse Archers are just too good now because Wam doesn't have an answer anymore. Like, Wam hasn't been building Siege. These Horse Archers have 5.5 tower range now, so they do pretty well for themselves.
And let's not sleep on the Archers even, because, while you don't have any specific bonuses for them, obviously with the Rus getting the wood bonus, you can just keep flooding them, right? It's the numbers game. It's quantity over quality.
Yeah, but I definitely think Horse Archers beat it, right? Like, per unit investment, because it's 120 versus 80, but the difference is like in the speed and the damage they put out. I think you can kind of see that from RecoN as well. Like, he still hasn't actually upgraded the archers after all this time.
Yeah.
They just survived this whole time. That was the thing. And now Clash coming out. It's going to force the fight. Saint's Blessing's going to be there for RecoN as well. That's going to make a big difference in these clashes, especially with low damage units. Horseman Wave is going to count out somewhat, but the Camel Riders. But the problem is the backline between the Horse Archers and the Bombards. Trade out isn't as one-sided for Wam as it maybe should be, considering his count.
All I'm distracted about looking at this fight is that behind this one...
Let me check the health bar on those Camels.
Those are tanky boys. Those are very chunky boys.
They're doing better. I didn't give them enough credit there. I thought they were going to be more heavily injured, but good lord, they are not even getting tickled right now.
The crazy thing is that behind this one, I was just focusing on one thing, and that is the fact that RecoN is getting professional scouts.
Wait,
what? Why? What for?
No. This is the extra BM. Wam still needs the deer, right? He's still gathering deer.
but professional scouts is still weird at this point.
Nah, you sneak in, you take the deer away, and then Wam's like, damn, you BM'd me, GG.
Now you gotta be careful here for RecoN, because things have evened out. In fact, Wam has the population lead now, and Abyssids are one of the most terrifying late-game civilizations. They have so many bonuses when it comes to the military wing, when it comes to their efficiency in the economy, the tier 3 of the Golden Age as well. So you gotta be careful here for RecoN, because you get the feel that, despite the fact that he was in command of this game for a while, he seems like he is on the back foot now, actually.
Yeah, so I should be a bit more fair in my balanced opinion on Horse Archers. The Horse Archers were actually bad for what RecoN wanted. They are good for raiding, but we have to remember what Camels do to Horse Archers. Missing out on 20% of damage adds up and means Archers are actually better traders. I think that was a really good play by Wam. He counted out practically all of RecoN's army. That's why RecoN's now switching into Streltsy, but he's not fully switching away from cavalry. You can see he's prepping biology and plenty of horsemen, so it still feels like that is the correct call. And I can understand where it's come from, but I think this Mangonel is the big MVP. Double Mango, ambush under the crossbows. Wam, slow to react. At least dodges the follow-up shot.
Yeah, but the first one, getting a great connection out there, and with the Streltsy support with the horsemen as well, Camels will fall rather easily, and this army could easily get taken down in a matter of seconds.
Wam, once again, essentially throwing away an army. The difference is the last time it was to cover a tech up. I'm not sure what it's covering this time. It's at least transitioning. He has plenty of military force come behind this. One big benefit of the Abbasids is not just their ability to go badass, their keep drops like this. It's also the fact that they produce their troops quicker due to the Golden Age.
Yeah, indeed, keep drop now coming in here, and RecoN, he seems to have no tools to stop this with. Rolling up with the Mangonels now, but only will get away with the villager kills. He probably can't stop the keep.
I mean, he can do some serious damage there. Takes down a few villagers, heavily injures others, but it's going to be exposed as a result. No front line. RecoN, where did it all go so wrong?
Well, some horsemen are coming in here for the raids with spearmen out there for the Abbasids now, and all the horsemen that RecoN invested into, they just went down the drain, and for the Abbasids, replenishing those lost villagers is not a big deal.
I mean, the bigger deal is going to be gold. You need to look on both sides of this and wonder who's using more gold, because gold is running out. There's basically none left on the map. There's one vein, I believe.
You do have one extra relic for RecoN here, but as you said, when it comes to the gold being used, you get the feel that RecoN is using way more. In fact, if you look at Wam's army composition, horsemen, spearmen, camel archers, barely any gold heavy units in the game for him.
It's just the camel riders and that's it, yeah. And then you can see RecoN's reaction. He's been here before. We watched him do this before in the series against Zertin the other week. RecoN is trading.
And I love it. He's setting himself up long-term, and behind this one, he's doing something else as well. He still has stone walls set up to the south, and you talked about the fact that Wam doesn't have a gold-heavy unit composition. In fact, he's got a wood-heavy unit composition. Take a look at the available forests for him. Basically none.
Especially considering one of them got walled away. Luckily for Wam, he snuck a small contingent of lumberjacks into the southern corner, so he's gathering wood there. Meantime, Streltsy is stabilizing the center. You can see Wam's hesitation to go in. And this is the other reason why RecoN won the Spasskaya. He was insulating himself for long term. He's been in this matchup before. In fact, that Zertin match that I referenced, it was this Civ choice on both sides. That game went an hour long. RecoN won off the back of trading. Can he do it again?
He's gonna have to fall back behind those walls over here. The Streltsy getting a lot of damage done to them by the cavalry, down to just a handful of Streltsy remaining. Only 8 on the field, but this choke point is actually a pretty good one to hold. Streltsy out there, supported by the keep as well. Difficult for Wam to push this angle.
RecoN finally, gets the good fight. Wam quickly realizes though, oh wait, I opened up the north side. Why am I fighting you here? We'll wrap around and in again. Important that RecoN doesn't let him go too deep, or he will spot out the trading. Meantime, these bombards are a pain in the bloody ass, using those walls to just blast through.
Yeah, it's painful, right? You're losing some buildings. Might even be the difference maker between tier 2 and tier 3 of the Golden Age.
Now Clash coming out. Streltsy not going to get to have their cake and eat it as they're ignored for the most. Spearmen clashing against each other here. Now remember, production is on RecoN's side because it's a home fight. And he doesn't need to take a definitive win and leave. He just needs to make sure that the Streltsy stand at the end and the trade is never revealed.
Yeah, that's the big thing here, because RecoN is basically covering a transition with this one, so he's not fully invested into army production. And if he can hold this one, he's going to set himself up long-term with the trade, and there comes a point where Wam is going to have to struggle for gold.
As we know, the gun is the natural predator of the camel. Just a matter of time before it gets blasted off the map at this rate. You can see that actually Wam is becoming more reliant on horsemen, less on the camels. Too pricey for him. In fact, look at his food right now. We are 37 minutes into the game. The Abbasid player is barely cracking 2k food a minute.
Yeah, on the other side for Rus player, it's almost 3k out there, but the gold income difference is now starting to get big. And for the Rus player, your premium units are locked behind that gold. You really need either for the Knights with the Knight Sabers and the Boyar's Fortitude upgrade, the Streltsy as well, your long-range Springolds, everything that you want to make in the late game costs you gold, and now RecoN is set up quite well to be able to just keep pumping those units out.
I mean, I gotta give him though. Like, but RecoN is the only player I see usually get to this stage in the game as a Rus and just be like, yep, it's time for trade. And it against the Abbasids, the fact that this is working, the fact that it's still not noticed, is to his credit. And actually, another thing that's comparative to that game with Zertin is he played the flank to distract Wam. He drew him to the south side of his base so the Wam would never look that deep into RecoN's, and it's worked wonders for him there.
It also ensures that Wam himself doesn't have an efficient trade, so he knows that no matter what, he's gonna have a better trade than Wam, and it looks like he's gonna take down the keep to the north as well. Cannon might fall victim to the villagers, but this is still an acceptable trade here for Wam, or RecoN rather.
Then just back up and walk away. Repair crew will be there in time, and that's going to be a bunch of villagers in trouble for Wam here. Okay, what? I underrate their power, clearly. It will get through it in the end, but still idle eco, and as you said, the keep goes down. Meanwhile, in the center, horsemen are able to overwhelm the Streltsy, and just as soon as Wam will feel confident, it's going to be a second wave of Streltsy waiting for him. I wonder if that's the point where he'll realize that RecoN has been trading.
Yeah, the big thing here is that you might say, okay, RecoN is running out of juice, but take a look at the resource banks. Behind this one, RecoN is stacking up resources, and he can turn that into army really fast, whereas for Wam, he's using every single bit of resource that he's getting to field an army, and right now he's struggling with population down to 140 only.
In fact, one weakness for RecoN, he's had this problem before. He actually had this in that certain series. I'm going to keep referencing it because there's a lot of mirrored comparatives here. RecoN is very slow to escalate his military count in terms of production buildings. He isn't moving his front line forward, which is why he's not really taking the definitive fights he should be. And the reason we can tell this is the case is because those resources you just mentioned. Wam is always burning his resources to replace armies. That's why he's holding. RecoN, on the other hand, is very slow about his approach, and he's building up surplus where he could easily turn this into more military push.
Yeah, and like right now he even has the numbers advantage over here. The Wolverine just standing idle on the back line. And now his addition of the Spearman actually pays out pretty well here, overrunning the Horseman of Wam.
Bit cheeky. Camel Archers should be able to handle it though. Remember, they do get double damage. However, if the Spearman reach you, that goes both ways anyway. Melee mosh proving effective. And RecoN, keep in mind that he's also building up a second wave of bulk Streltsy behind all this.
Yeah, and the Camel Archer, as you said, they have a not bounty, but a bonus rather against the Spearman. But the key thing here is that the Camel Archers, they don't want to stand and fight. They want to just hit and run, and that's not something that they can do anymore because they just have to stand and fight, hold off the forces of RecoN over here, which they are really struggling to do so now with the Streltsy appearing on the battlefield.
And looks like RecoN's breaking in on the south side again as well. A few troops are wiggling their way, and I think he has a villager force down there, so he could even build a small proxy base if he wants. Yeah, Horseman once again in. It's just becoming frustrating now. Wam just having to put out too many fires and wholly reliant on spears and camel archers. One of those units can mobilize, the other cannot though.
And look at that now, push coming in here. Looks like we're gonna have another front line open on the north as well. Love that from RecoN. He just wants to stretch out the attention of Wam as much as possible, and he's doing a great job with that. Wam just can't focus everywhere. He's bleeding from so many wounds, and he can't take all of those.
Wam must be frustrated by this. He's like, we're in the late game. I'm the bastards. I'm meant to be winning. No. Not against this Roost player, not on this map, not when he's trading, not when you still have not sniffed it out. Not when you do not have access to that trading yourself.
That's the big thing, right? Keep in mind, this is looking like a difficult spot here for Wam. And you might be asking, why is he trying to hold on? It's because he doesn't know that his opponent has a fully set up trade. Had he known that, he probably taps out because he knows there is no way back into this one. He's still hoping that RecoN runs out of juice. Little does he know that the worst is yet to come.
It's like, if I just kill one more Streltsy line, I'll be fine. If I just kill one more Streltsy line, I'll be... Just one more, it's fine. No, it's never fine. In fact, now, wow, it's going to get worse and worse. He is going into hand cannoneers. This is a race you cannot win. Streltsy are better, more cost efficient, and also, Wam isn't trading.
This is just looking so sad for Wam, constantly dropping a population steadily at 140 right now, down to 92 eco only. His army is still standing strong, but his ability to replenish that army is just non-existent. And am I seeing the third sacred site being capped here?
I think you are. I think he's had enough. He's had his fun. RecoN says, let's start to bring this to an end. And also, he done it. RecoN, what did I say? He doesn't build forward infrastructure enough. He's doing it now. Stables on the front line, which is why he's able to stake his claim in this base and stay. Doesn't have to wait for the new line of Streltsy, though. Wam now going up to 10 hand cannoneers. RecoN will need to double down fast. An interesting switch up as RecoN is also now making his way into men-at-arms.
Weird. You get the... You probably have to think about the men-at-arms as the tool to deal with the Spearman and the Horseman. He probably wasn't expecting that many hand cannoneers to appear. So, surprising choice. I'm not sure how many men-at-arms he's going to employ. But for the time being, he's taking a really good fight over here in the choke point. Streltsy once again playing a critical role in this engagement.
Yeah, Wam has to back away. The Streltsy are bad enough. If the mangonels show up as well, that would have been a GG feeling with the whole army being wiped, especially now that you're relying on hand cannoneers. And, well, just to make sure Wam is never trading, RecoN has snuck in and blocked out the neutral trade post. So scalability very clearly and definitively with one side and not the other.
And all of this is happening to Wam while he actually got away with the lumberjack into the south. Those lumberjacks could have been denied and he would have been in an even worse position if that was the case. So the fact that he is in such a bad position, despite the fact that he got away with all that lumberjacking, is actually just telling you how good of a game RecoN is having over here.
RecoN, he is an awkward spot for that cannon. There is going to wrap around on the keep there. The keep that... Wait, did RecoN not... Wait, oh, no. RecoN, no. One villager? One? Oh, God.
The rest of them were wielding the walls.
Just cancel it, please. Like, this hits me right in the eco. No, it's just a waste. It's not going up.
I think he's buying time for a push in the middle.
He
wants to keep those horsemen around.
Horsemen there. Exactly. So now he's going to march in the center. Streltsy counting out to 23. The mangoes also unanswered, which means Wam at risk of not only losing his back line, but his front line, because Spim will not last long against that many rocks.
So here comes the Wally.
Heavy damage. Decent damage done there is going to make Wam hesitate back through the choke points, which plays to the Mango advantage. And you see now trying to wrap around with the Horseman, but RecoN ready to body block at any turn. It just feels like Wam can't find a way in.
Yeah, Wam is actually close to PopCap though. Almost 100 army on the field here. Looks like he's pushing in.
Unlimited Zerged him. Mangonel's going to stand their ground. The spread of forces right now. The Streltsy actually not the worst of front lines up against spears like this, but the Mangos are going to be accessed in the end. High price on both sides. However, the hand cannon is still standing is a big deal for Wam. Can't afford to replace them if they go down.
Oh, Wam must feel happy about this engagement, but once again, sustainability is a big question because RecoN still has a way better chance to replenish the forces that he has lost. And keep in mind, he still is in control over the timer. 7 minutes remaining from the Sacred Site countdown, but Wam at least lives to see another day, keeps some hope alive.
Push it out fast as well. Needs to get rid of the forward infrastructure. RecoN is rebuilding the army, and look at this switch up. Wood is becoming the new gold, so he switches back into Knights. Knights that could be pretty impactful here. Just more tanky in this situation than the Horseman. Means Streltsy will get more fire off before being attacked. Streltsy that are once again in this choke point. Once again, a choke point that is the bane of Wam's existence.
Yeah, and one might wonder why he's going for the Knights when he's up against essentially Camel Archers and Spearmen, but the point here of the Knights is just to have a front line in front of the Streltsy. And right now, the easiest unit for RecoN to afford for a front line is probably the Knight.
And let's keep in mind that that gold vein that we saw Wam on, that is his final one. We were mistaken a little bit earlier, but that is the actual final one. So the hand cannoneers ever disappear. Wam only has one more army he can rebuild.
Yeah, Sacred Site in the middle did get decapped, so at least for the time being, Wam buys himself some extra time, but he's still far away from trading, and as you said...
Lidakor. Before you... Sorry, important segue here. Before you get into that thought of like, oh, Wam's gonna... like, RecoN was playing that entire thing without Military Academy.
Well, he was 200 pop cap for quite a while, so it may have not influenced that much, but here it comes.
Sorry, I probably shouldn't interrupt your train of thought there. It's just, you know how I am at the moment. I'm looking at Military Academy and I'm shaking my head whenever it's over 30 minutes that hasn't been researched, especially in this situation, because the limit for RecoN wasn't resource, it was push.
True, it was momentum. You could also argue that he's got a slight overboom, maybe 133 workers, so he never really had the critical mass and he just got overpowered. Like, if you look at the army numbers, he's pop capped at 62 army as opposed to his opponent all the way up to 90 army, so he never really can have the numbers advantage in any fight.
Although in fairness, you can't get much more premium than this army.
True.
Knights and Streltsy. If this doesn't reveal to Wam that trading has been going on, nothing will.
True. And in a way, if you think about this one, he's actually playing very reminiscent to Beastie. He's just stripping the map barren of resources. He doesn't want to win right now. He just wants to take all the resources and then turn that into one massive army. But here it goes.
Flash. Knights moving in quick. Streltsy opening fire. The Camel Archers have to get pretty close here. And you can see a few Knights peeled off to body block the Horseman. Horseman reaching that back line, but not clearing it up as quickly as you'd like. The Streltsy just do too much damage. However, the Knights also take too much damage. The Bassett Spears in the late game, so damn strong here. The lack of reduction on the front line means RecoN might struggle to replace what is lost. However, he's done enough damage. Streltsy will clean up the last of the Spearmen. The Camel Archers should not last long behind that. And considering the Streltsy have been standing on their ground this entire time, their damage is higher than the other hand cannoneers.
This is just the doctrine of mutual annihilation here, really both sides losing massive numbers. The big difference is that RecoN has the resource bank to burn, whereas Wam doesn't. The question is whether he has the production, because, as you highlighted, production could be a concern for RecoN, and he's a little too slow building up those numbers once again.
It feels like he's missing a trick each time. He should always be more or less a pop cap in this situation with that economy behind him, and it feels like long-term this can kind of play against him simply because the wood isn't eternal. However, in fairness, he does still have access to a lot of wood reserve in terms of available forest lines, so should be able to hold him for a while, but it does feel like Wam is maybe getting more opportunities to recover this game than is due.
Yeah, and as I said, the build up here for RecoN is very slow. Look at that. Wam has a massive standing army again, whereas for RecoN, he's still at 180 population, slowly building up the Knights and the Streltsy, but at this stage of the game, you want a unit to pop out from your production buildings the moment the unit falls on the battlefield. So being this slow to build up your army is going to hurt your chances quite a bit here, because you're outnumbered quite a bit right now on the battlefield.
Yeah, it feels even worse when you consider the Bastards are producing 20% faster than you can ever possibly do. Just sets that kind of feeling in motion. The crazy part is that because of that, in conjunction with the fact that Wam optimized this, despite the fact that he's only had control of maybe a fifth of the map, he still somehow finds the room to get production lines thick enough to keep up with this at all times. Streltsy once again moving out. Second wave of Knights coming in. That looks healthy. Streltsy will be able to stand through this. A lot of Knights are once again going to be sacrificed, and it looks like Wam has had enough of this crap. Peasant Rebellion in on the Wooden Fortress to get rid of that strong point defense. Streltsy once again going to be forced back, and this just feels like an eternal slog.
Yeah, well, RecoN is holding back the Knights. You see 18 Knights on the field, nowhere to be found because they're coming in for the raid. Oh,
baby, we in. Time to bathe yourself in the blood of the Abbasids. I swear it's just berry juice.
This is devastating, crippling the food eco of Wam, and he has barely any food in the bank. If you destroy that food eco, he's going to struggle to replenish those units because everything he makes is so heavy on the food, the spearmen, the camel archers. It is going to be a cleanup, but what's the price that Wam is playing for this one?
Especially when you consider that Wam is only one TC. Remember, he lost the other two, so reproducing that force is going to take a very long time in this situation. There's a lot more pressure on him to try and go on the offensive. Remember, the last time we saw him around 2,000 food a minute, he was struggling. He's back close to that number again. Does feel like the beginning of Struggle Central's RecoN will just easily, with a blink of the eyes, rebuild the Night Line as if it didn't even disappear.
That's the big thing. And you see Lumberjacks are now also exposed. Wam is running out of resources really fast here. He needs to make something happen really soon.
Mangonels was meant to be the ace in his sleeve, but double time for the Streltsy to get in position, out of position. Dodge those shots, are going to stand their ground now, are going to take heavy damage though, and it feels like he needed to address the Mangonels directly. Streltsy going to be forced away again. Once again, the Knights die, but once again, you have to ask, how much can Wam get from this? It feels like he's once again at the walls that he can never get past.
Yeah, RecoN is fighting this not to win a battle. He's fighting this to win a war. And he's just playing a war of attrition over here, knowing fully well that Wam has taken a big punch to his food eco, knowing that his opponent has absolutely no trade going on, and knowing that Wam is starting to run low on wood. And you see double layers of stone walls with the siege workshop even out there. That is what Wam has to get through to have any chance of trading.
Yeah, you mentioned him playing a similar style to Beastie, but this is where he's different from Beastie. Beastie will just build a cavalry force and dive it in, and we've seen that a few times from RecoN. But the way he does it is fundamentally different. He leverages the flanks and builds proxy bases to do something with. In this case, it's Siege. We've seen it before where it's mass stables. The reality is he's doing extra perma damage. Compared to the Beastie strategy where you, chip away at the eco, he's going to take out the buildings as well. And why is that so important? Wood is running out fast.
Looks like he's gonna find an enclosure of new forests over here for himself. So once again, keeps himself alive. Up to 100 army he is. RecoN is still stuck at 63. You really have to question whether he needs 140 eco here. If he wants to play this very long war of attrition, sure thing, it's fine. But he's not gonna win the game for the next 15-20 minutes if he's sticking with this many numbers, because Wam can hold him off for that time with the army he has.
Yeah, I don't know if the plan is to fatigue your opponent here, because RecoN's in the UK and the Wam is in Canada, so it's getting late for RecoN, not Wam. I'm not fully sure what the plan was with this.
Keep in mind that Wam, he didn't have a visual confirmation on the trade. Sure think he sees the composition, but he doesn't know that RecoN has a fully well set up trade, so...
Oh my god.
Wait a second.
Army. So much army.
Was it boiling oil though?
Yeah, boiling oil in a cannon. There's a lot of damage there, and so many units are still alive, but that actually makes it worse. It means they're going to get to the start of the fight, and they're just going to die.
Yeah. That's the problem, right? You take the population space, but they're heavily battered.
Did he re-wall the south? I don't think he did, so there is a quick way for Wam to get back into his base, because right now, he's at risk of being stuck on the outside of his base looking in.
Once again, push coming in here. Army number is still much higher for Wam. The problem is that, as you said, you can't get a more premium army than what RecoN has.
Exactly, and now that premium army is on your economy. Wam going close to 70 eco. RecoN realizing he'll probably have to throw away the army again, but whoop-de freaking doodah. The damage is slowly being done. It really is death by 1,000 cuts.
It is. He's down to 73 eco, and sure think he still has a massive standing army, but RecoN can replenish his forces indefinitely, whereas Wam, he won't be able to.
See the Scrolls will stand their ground. Admirably, as they will flop dead eventually. And while they stand their ground, static deployment kicks in, so they kill off even more troops before dying. And oh no, you've wiped my army. Too bad you don't know how to get through a wall.
Well, you're saying that, but it is somewhat intimidating for RecoN right now that he's at 29 army as compared to 110. So he really needs to be careful about this.
I agree, it would usually be worrying, but then I've seen how Wam struggles to figure out he can walk around a wooden palisade wall. So at that point, I think RecoN's like, he'll never figure it out. In fact, I think the center stealth forest now has a stone wall there.
Yes.
And if you look at Wam's military, you may notice a lack of any siege whatsoever.
There's a bigger thing. I think there is a stone wall now in front of the final sacred site in the middle. Indeed, there is. This is the big thing.
Oh, lordy.
He started the countdown once. The central sacred site got decapped. The one on the right side is impossible to decap for Wam. The one on the left has been already heavily fortified. So you have to go for the middle one, which already has stone walls defending it.
Oi, 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 RecoN. This time, now, this is big. This is another reason why it was a game for Spascaita. You just saw Streltsy standing on a wall. In this matchup, good luck.
Good luck dealing with that.
Bastards. Exactly. They take less damage. They have an extra 2-tower range, so they're probably not moving the fight, which means they're getting full stack deployment damage. And now you have to come in range of it because he has sacred sites. Ouch.
He might even drop a second layer of stone walls here. He's cleaning up the way for that. Still 9 minutes left to go here for Wam, but the problem is that he loses the 120 army he has. It's going to take so much time for him to replenish it because he simply won't have the resource bank to do so with. He's got the food, but not the wood or the gold. So he loses the push. He's not going to be able to regroup in time to mount a second assault to decap one of those sacred sites.
Exactly. There's a concern that Wam might have to play flank, and if he does, I think RecoN just goes down the center. And he can confidently do so due to all the static defenses and the walls, right? So he won't have to worry about losing sacred sites like that. Instead, he can just dive your base, chip another 20 eco off your count, and at that stage, Wam can't maintain an army.
Yeah, not a lot of Streltsy on the field here for RecoN. Still a little pedestrian when it comes to replenishing the army. He's just keeping population space for a sneaky proxy base on the flank.
Yeah, not as much a pedestrian as a pleb down there doing the good work, setting up stables that will easily cause more problems for Wam and RecoN. Notice that he tries to breach in with the Knights because why are they needed, right? You've got the Wolves, there's no quick breach coming out. You can see Bombards now entering the field for Wam, but with such a limited amount of gold at his fingertips, it does feel like every single one of these units is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, and it looks like he wants to breach the walls on the north, which leaves those Bombards very exposed to Knight counterattack. It's not like there is an army defending it.
Yeah, but at the same time, RecoN isn't moving his army up there. It's a little bit
He wants to
too
raid.
cumbersome. Exactly. We just discovered the stone wall on the south side. Wam did insulate himself. Oh, what Wam doesn't know can't hurt him until it does hurt him, which is that there are stables in the corner.
Oh, Knights shifting to the north here. Looks like Wam wants to contest that northern sacred site. 2 or possibly 3 keeps defending it. Look at the traps.
Dude, they've done so much damage up here, and it's just Wam could never react to it because he just didn't have wall breaches. The only reason he has one now is because he needs to breach it due to the sacred sites.
Wait a second, look at that fight.
Oh, what? Where are you go, RecoN? Sir? Sir?
Oh, that is
Calm
ugly.
down.
The worst possible fight that you could have taken. In fact, I'm actually wondering whether RecoN intentionally just let those Knights die because you want to replace them with Streltsy or Knights to the south.
That's what I was about to say. Like, he can get Knights south side now, right? So, and then the Streltsy, they are better than Knights because they can just stand on those walls. Knights can't stand on walls. Sorry, guys. You might have watched some Hollywood movie where that happens, but it's not allowed.
I mean, dismounted Knights cannon. Look at that. I love this. He added the cannon emplacement to the keep, so the keep can fire away at the bombard. So unless you repair that bombard, you're going to lose that very pricey siege unit.
Also, the cannon can kill the villagers trying to repair the bombard. So middle finger to that. Knights now coming on the south side. RecoN, he's just read this perfectly. He's realized the transition that's needed. Wam can't react to everywhere at once. It's once again going to be what it was earlier, where he's trying to put out fires across the map.
It's the escalation. It's to pick your poison scenario for Wam.
Yep.
Are you decapping the sacred site, or are you saving your farming eco? And RecoN knows fully well, if he decaps the sacred site, so be it, because I'm gonna shatter his food eco, and that's exactly what he's doing.
And it's not just here, it's south of here as well. Remember those proxy stables, there's more knights flooding in down there as well. Sure, he'll get on the sacred site and get the decap, but another army thrown away. A heavy distraction, and plenty of villages thrown away as well. Now down to 68 villagers at an hour into the game as the Abbasids.
And his army on the north is well heavily battered thanks to boiling oil. Look at the amount of dead bodies out there from the blue player. Decap might happen over here, but the problem is that Wam has taken a lot of damage behind this one.
Yeah, losing an army like this hurts because of your wood and the lack of it. It's very difficult to quickly replace that army. In fact, you can see the diving coming in. The other issue is as you start replacing that army, if your infrastructure is exposed, RecoN just opens fire at the moment you spawn. RecoN, oh lordy, he's going back up at big into the night count. Now 32, ready to zerk the field. And very little in the way of eco left for them to snipe.
Yeah, that's it, right? He realized that Wam has to decap the sacred site, so he also realized that there is no one defending the farmers, and he's just pushing in. Down to 60 eco is Wam, and he's depleting his food bank quite rapidly. No wood accessible, barely any gold in the bank. He's down to 64 army, 124 population against a RecoN who is still pop capped at this point.
Wam, we've seen after his series against Kazva last week that even when it looks hopeless, he refuses to GG out. And I feel like despite the fact this looks almost hopeless, he's still going to continue to just not GG out. Oh, there we go. You just have to call him out on it, and all set. RecoN finally gets the first game, but feels all too typical. Whenever he's involved in Lipany, it takes over an hour.
Indeed, what a game here by RecoN. He has played a very slow-paced game over here, just grinding down his opponent in that war of attrition, and really, the game changer was the trade being set up, something that RecoN was able to do while holding off Wam's forces, and something that Wam never really got to, and ultimately that was the big difference maker. If you take a look at the overall resources, it's going to paint a clear picture of why RecoN was able to win this game.
Yeah, it's just well played by him. He plays the flanks really well. He doesn't rush for this end. You know, some people are going to criticize RecoN. Why did it take him this long? And it takes him this long to end this game because the Abbasids and how absurd they are at this stage in the game. This isn't as much on him as it is on the way the Abbasids work. This is just a brilliant read by RecoN. In this matchup, if you can't end the game fast, like you get stuck in this internal slog. And he played it well. Maybe there were a few circumstances he could have done better. I think one of the big things to me is he probably should have had forward infrastructure sooner and military academy sooner. But outside that, this is just a wider issue of what the Abbasids do to the late game currently.
Yeah, they can get away having so limited amount of gold. This is part of the reason why Wam was able to hold for over an hour, despite the fact that he has gathered 50,000 less gold than his counterpart.
It's just an absurd civ right now. Camels are good, spearmen are ridiculously good, like no spear in the game is as good as the Abbasids. Horsemen, just still a very easily maintainable unit. Let's stop complicating this. Let's focus on what's ahead of us. It's Wam versus RecoN. RecoN, after one hell of a long game, took the lead. Now we hop into game two. It's Wam on the Mongols, RecoN on the French, and last time I watched Wam do this, it was another hour-long game.
Oh, it is going to be indeed RecoN in command of the French, and then on the other side it is going to be Mongols for Wam, as we get a picture in just a second.
Ooh.
There we go.
So, RecoN is he not? He's not going straight for it. Wait, no, he did. Yeah, he sent the scout right across. You can see it's actually right next to Wam's base.
Yeah.
So this is something you mentioned, Mr. highlighted to us, that you can know where your opponent is, and he's proven exactly how valuable that is. He snuck in and took the home sheep. There's usually 3 to 5 sheep right next to your base on Frisian. Wam just got robbed.
Yeah, that's a big one. Although Wam can't complain, he's got a couple of sheep trailing his scouts, so it's not as bad as it would have possibly been. But yeah, indeed, if you're wondering what's up with that, basically the story is that RecoN is playing the French, which means that the neutral market locations are revealed to him at the start of the game. And On this map, you always have the players occupying 2 of the corners, and the other 2 corners are occupied by the neutral markets. If you know where the markets are, you know where your opponent is, so you can go straight away to yoink their sheep.
Oh, man, this is another tough one, actually, for Wam. Is the generation for RecoN was quite kind. His gold is not exposed forward of his base, so this outpost rush might struggle to hit where it needs to.
Yeah. The other interesting thing here is that if there's any civilization that has a very well streamlined answer to the tower rush, it's probably French. We've seen this once again pioneered by Mista all the way back in Golden League, where he's essentially just decided to go for scouts to torch down the tower with, and then archers to pick off the spearmen with. And if you think about that, yeah, sure, I think the scouts are an extra investment, but it's not super pricey. And in the end, you will have an archer range, archers which you would be using anyways. So the French have a pretty well streamlined answer to these tower rushes. Remains to be seen what Wam can accomplish with one over here.
I would say that typically a lot of French players just don't go for that scout build anymore. Sometimes they just ignore it, or I think one big detail to consider here is like the cost of investing in scouts versus pulling villages. Now that those outposts have 250 less health, it just doesn't feel good to go for the scout. So I think most players at the moment have just opted for, if I need to get rid of an outpost, zerg it with villages.
That's true, especially because players have gotten much greedier, so it's much more common to see the 2 TC builds, 3 TC builds, so losing a couple of villagers for the sake of cleaning up the tower might be something that players can now justify a lot more than they possibly could have had, let's say, a couple of months ago.
I don't like this from RecoN. He done the bad thing. He didn't delete the mining camp. Oh, why is this annoying? Why is this bad? Well, it's especially bad when you're playing as the French, because you only pay 25 wood for these things, yet your opponent's going to get paid 50 when he torches it.
Yeah, looks like the mining camp is gonna get abandoned indeed. School of Cavalry coming up at a very safe spot, but he won't have enough gold for a knight straight away.
Exactly. I love what RecoN was trying to do there, by the way. He kept trying to aggro the spin with the scout so that he could aggro it in range of the TC. Crafty bugger that he is, but it didn't work out in the end. Yeah, it just feels like RecoN knows he's going to be forced to go into the archery range and get a few archers out. The problem is, like, you still won't have the unit to definitively take out the outpost with that format.
Yeah, as you said, he could possibly think about pulling villagers. You won't even have a lot of spearmen guarding the tower, only 4 spears on the field for Wam. He is also rushing up Feudal Age himself, so not a massive commitment to this tower rush, although he already got paid for burning down that mining camp, so some bounty already awarded to the Mongol player here.
Yeah, it's basically the typical investment out of a Mongol player, right? 4 spearmen, an outpost, and I'm done. Now he'll prep the stables off the back of this as well. Not a bad choice. Horsemen plus spears counters out basically the most expected format for the French. But considering RecoN has limited access to gold, could be we see him switch it up and go for spears instead.
It is possible. I'm actually curious to see whether RecoN is going to add his own spears. But for the time being, he's going to face some horsemen coming out from Wam. Villager now being pulled all the way back. So this tower rush is all done. And at this point for RecoN, unless he wants to go for stone in the second TC, he can also ignore that tower. Or can he? Does he have a backup gold mine, actually?
He has to the north side. He has to play out
Oh,
his
no,
base.
he can't ignore it then. He needs to clean it up.
Yeah, he can just mass a bunch of horsemen if he really wants it gone. Just 2 scouts, a horseman, and like 6 villagers could burn that down as well. So it's pretty easy to get rid of. I think he's just going to wait until he's got about 6 archers so that he can kill the spearmen when they come out.
Looks like Wam is back to defensive game over here, so he's afraid of the knight popping out because he doesn't have information on whether RecoN has enough gold for knight, although he could click the gold mine. Still, he doesn't know whether there are knights coming, so he's gonna play a little bit more defensive. RecoN just gonna operate with horsemen for the time being.
Yeah, and to that comment, you have to remember that he doesn't know if there's a back mill, this research wheelbarrow or anything like that, right? So there's some variability that the French have there, so I think he'd rather play it safe, which is understandable. In fairness, he got a decent spawn for doing that as well, with the Uvu spawn next to the TC. And it just makes sense to have an outpost prepped towards the gold simply for the YAM network, if nothing else.
Yeah, looks like RecoN is gonna end up ignoring that gold mine in the end. Goes for the one on the north. This is very risky unless Wam plays a defensive game. So far, Wam has been rather defensive. And there's a stealth forest in front of that gold mine, so he could easily hide his army in there to just ambush RecoN's forces, but it's also rather risky.
Yeah, I was about to say it's still unnecessary risky. He realized it as well. He pulls back. There was a wraparound. That timing, like that sense that something was wrong. And the reason why he sensed it is because RecoN had ran into Wam's base. There was no army. When you don't see an army there at all, you realize he must be flanking to go after Eureka.
And I think Wam is just now realizing that he's not really facing knights over here, only horsemen. And the composition that he has right now, Horseman Spearman, is likely better than the Horseman Archer comp of RecoN. Not sure what RecoN's game plan is here, because he's stuck on 1 TC, no access to gold, and his unit composition is far from something I would call stellar.
It gets bang for buck though, right? Like the cool thing about massing horsemen is you have a body block unit. So if you see someone you can counter, you can actually manipulate the fight. And in fairness, his archer count is pretty healthy at this stage. I think if anything, RecoN could go for a second archery range, at which stage Wam would struggle to combat. Move arrow just about gets him out. Does mean that he'll want to be a little bit more careful now. Probably won't go in for another injection like that, simply because he doesn't have the maneuver arrow for a while. And
he
that
doesn't
should give
even
the
need
breathing
to.
room.
Because, like, look at what Wam is doing behind this. That's the big thing. Both players are going for similar or at least relatively comparable unit compositions. The big difference is that Wam is stacking up resources for castle. And RecoN is nowhere close. And unlike in many cases where the French can just dive with knights to punish an early castle, that's not the case over here for RecoN. He only has horsemen.
Although if RecoN continues on this path with this type of escalation, he might catch Wam in the beginning of a tech up. Has to be mentioned that Wam doesn't have easily defendable locations to build that step read out. He condenses TC next to the tree line, so he has to build it in front of the TC.
Maybe he builds a Kurotai.
I mean, you still have to build it though, Lidakor.
But you can build it right next to your TC.
Yeah, but I'm saying there could be a dive come out. Like it's horsemen and archers. Like it could dive.
Yeah, you could try to target that gold mine indeed. We have seen that back in the days of Golden League, that one of the ways that you could punish a fast castle from the Mongols is try to hit the gold mine the moment they hit Castle Age, because everything that they want to do in Castle Age revolves around gold. Use the step redoubt, collect relics with Shaman, go for man-at-arms, go for Lancers, everything requires gold. So you pressure the gold, you cut them off from the gold, you essentially cripple the entire Castle Age concept.
You just want to rename yourself Goldfinger. The amount of times you mentioned gold there. I get it. The Mongols love their gold.
No, Mr. Tower, I expect you to die.
That's right. Wam loves the feel of it, the touch of it, the smell of it. Nothing beats a good old outpost rush. Oh wait, we were meant to be one about gold. Well, that outpost is finally gone. Which means that RecoN can now be a greedy boy. The funny part is that he didn't wait until he killed the outpost to build the mining camp. So Wam knows exactly what RecoN's now doing.
Yeah, interesting.
I hope he's going to play this TC onto the fish, or I'm not sure if it's good enough.
He doesn't have a tremendous amount of sheep left to work with. He didn't touch his hunt, didn't touch his berries. And in fact, his berries are very much exposed, so is his hunt, so it kind of feels like a no-brainer to build his second TC on the fish.
I think he'll play deer, actually. There's 2,450 resources there. The ponds, on average, have about 1,500 to 2,000, and they're pretty split.
Yeah, but the getter rates are better, and it might be easier to defend a spread-out base that is spread out to the side rather than just having a forward expansion.
Really? You think that you don't think like the fact that you've got a tree line there and then the edge of the map makes it easy to hold?
Interesting. Depends on whether or not you can get some walls up. If you could get some walls up, I would love it. Without it, it's a little scary, especially because it's right next to a stealth forest, so you never know what's lurking in that stealth forest. You could easily get surprised.
Yeah, I think the problem for RecoN is if he goes onto the lakes, he has to play wide, but he wants to play center, right? He wants to be quickly moving forward because he has military mass. So if he has to keep reacting the flanks, it skews his timing, versus building your TC near the deer means that everything is still like a conveyor line towards your opponent's base.
Speaking of timing, though, there is going to be the second TC coming soon. In fact, he mined more stone than what he needs for this one, up to 440 he is. His opponent on the other side, up to Castle Age, though, and this is where things could get a little scary for RecoN, because in most cases, the French are fine staying in feudal because their knights are better than ordinary feudal age units. But this is not the case over here. This is a standard feudal age player with horsemen and archers against a Castle Age player, not a spot that RecoN wants to be in.
Nah, and also that Castle Age player has also quickly into the second TC, so Wam won't be left in the dust. Oh no. RecoN hasn't even started building the TC yet because he was delayed. Needed to actually gather a little bit more wood. It's finally going up, but it means that Wam will be able to keep neck and neck with you here. And the difference is that because Wam is now getting the premium Lancers and Men-at-Arms out, he might be the one favored for relic gathering here.
Yeah, and as you said, the problem here for RecoN is that it's one thing that he's playing a 2TC build. The bigger problem is that this second TC is just now being placed. So at the end of the day, he's gonna have a villager lead of like 2 or 3 at best.
Whoops. So that'll just be idle eco. We'll be able to back away. Keep in mind that RecoN did go for the more risky woodline first, so he always has the secondary as a safe.
Yeah, I like that. It's gonna be a nice reserve wood for him, something that he's gonna need. Looks like now he's adding some spearmen to deal with the Lancers, and for the time being he's holding and he's quickly massing an army. Like, he has reasonable numbers, it's just the fact that he's 1 age behind.
But the thing that he has to his advantage is all these horsemen. These horsemen are useful for body blocking, so he can actually pinch the Lancers and then let the spearmen catch up. Means it might be very difficult for Wam to actually get value out of this Lancer investment. Say that for the time being, he's in Ring of Roses, but a few spearmen will be able to pinch, and it just feels like these Lancers aren't actually doing anything. They aren't achieving idle eco, they're keeping RecoN back, but RecoN continues to escalate his military count.
Yeah, nice reaction by RecoN. He's chasing them away with the spearmen, and yeah, and this opens up opportunities for RecoN to possibly counterattack with the horsemen, and then again, having that many horsemen is going to help with the body blocking of Wam's villagers. That's the big difference here. Those knights can dish out a lot of damage in a short time, but on the other side, what RecoN has is a lot of horsemen, so you could easily get some beautiful surrounds on villagers.
Yeah, I think the micro in these fights is going to be more annoying for Wam, because now you've got all these horsemen, you add in knights. It's just the logic that it's cannon fodder, right?
Yeah.
It's cannon fodder that you can always engage with first because they'll move faster than the knights, and then you follow in with your heavy cavalry. And of course, French knights, because of their bonus damage after a charge, can actually compare to Castle Age knights.
Looks like counterattack is now coming in here for RecoN. Wam doesn't have his horseman nearby. He's flanking around to the right side, going in for the raid himself.
Yeah, but it's been walled in, and there should be some spearmen guarding there. Looks like he might not be paying attention straight away, though. Instead, it's going to be villagers exposed. A few troops are reacting, but a little bit too out in the open from RecoN, so he's going to be punished a little. So he's not actually reacting with his primary TC. Now, this worked to his advantage before when the Lancers wouldn't stop to attack, but this time they're willing to hang around, and RecoN finally realizes it's a mistake.
Yeah, indeed, but look at the punishment. Shaman getting intercepted. Ooh.
Really
Juicy
good
pickup
timing.
out there.
Especially considering Wam, like, think about the investment there. You know, it's a 300 resource investment, then there's also the 200 for the monastery. Now also a movement further in, idling eco on the other side. Pretty good move out of RecoN. And the second wave is starting to march across. It looks like Wam might be forced to condense his forces, and he is at risk of being overwhelmed. 16 military pop cap to the 40.
This game is so reminiscent to the start of the previous one out there. Same thing.
Right?
RecoN just waiting for his opponent to blink, waiting for him to go to castle, and then just overrun with feudal age units. You get the feel that the impression that you have in this game is actually very similar, and part of the equation here is that Wam doesn't have any men-at-arms to deal with the spearmen archers, or not a single one of his own archers. He's just relying on lancers, almost exclusively, something that will die to a swarm of spearmen like what RecoN has.
It's actually a pretty cool concept out of RecoN. He's taking what the current meta is about to the extreme. The whole idea that you don't want to rush Castle Age, right?
Yes.
The usual argument is whoever blinks first loses. He's doing that intentionally. He's done it in the first game, and he's done it to a big extreme in this one, where he believes that feudal can float him a lot longer. I think you are reaching a convergence point where you have to change that up. Like, you're going to have to go for Castle soon. But so far, it's actually kept him in this game miraculously well.
I think the key thing here is that you can go to Castle Age while also having like 50 army on the battlefield. That's going to be the big difference maker here. Wam went to Castle having no army on the field, and you see he's just now building up his Castle Age forces, whereas on the other side, look at that Shaman getting picked off once again. When RecoN goes to Castle, he's going to have a scary force to upgrade into a Castle Age army.
But he needs to find a way there soon. So far, he's forced to double down, but you can see the number difference is starting to shrink. And we're talking quality versus quantity now, where quantity is starting to come online for the quality.
Yeah, crossbows will soon be a difference maker over here. I agree. RecoN has to find a way to Castle Age. I think he's now thinking about this one.
Timing though, villagers will be able to get out in time. Wraparound coming in. Wam got a bit gluttonous here. Will try to make his way out just in time. RecoN a little bit off mark with the micro. Didn't wrap around north. So Wam will get away. Some heavy damage on the Lancers though, and back with the defensive. But the outpost network extending for him, and the Yam coming online, it's going to get more and more difficult for RecoN to choose these fights.
Yeah, with improved siege engineering also on the way, suddenly the threat of mangonels are there. And keep in mind, RecoN's forces, those are not set up to deal with mangonels. His army is now almost exclusively infantry, just spearmen and archers, only a handful of knights and horsemen remaining. So dealing with those mangonels will be a challenge for him. And he's going to need to squeeze out Castle Age really fast because of that. Now thinks about going up to Castle Age himself. Likely with a college, or what's that, Royal Institute, that is, despite the fact that he only has a couple of knights on the field.
I think it has to be, though. You can transition afterwards. It's just the values we found in Castle Age. You have to end the game there. You can't look towards Imp, but...
Broadcaster.
Okay, just disregard everything I said. Yep, okay, RecoN, we're going to talk about this afterwards. And how great it is and how you want it. Well, I mean, I hope it works out for him, because I feel like the Guildhall has been falling flat recently.
It's such a weird decision, but in a weird way, I like it. For the playstyle he's playing, it actually might fit into the game plan. Because, think about it this way. You build a Royal Institute because you want to go for Knights and Arbaletria. But RecoN has no desire to go for either of these units right now. And if he wants to play a slower paced game and just play a defensive game, he could just sit behind those walls and really leverage the extra resources instead. I think it's a risky call, but I can definitely see how it fits into the game plan of him in here. Ooh.
Wait, oh, RecoN? Oh, RecoN, what? Oh, the hesitation. And now he's not reacting at base either. This is all... It feels like a small bit. It's actually falling apart from RecoN when you see details like that. He's not reacting quick enough.
Oh, you're saying that. Look at that.
What? What was that?
I think he wanted to bait the army in. I think RecoN waited outside, hoping that his opponent commits to the hole, and then just pinces around from the other side. I think he was consciously waiting for the dive.
That is a high-risk, low-reward pay, to be honest. I get what you're getting at. The whole idea is like, oh, you know, RecoN will be behind the wall when I burn it. But it's like so unnecessary of a risk. And you saw he didn't actually get much out of it. He killed like 2 Lancers. But it covers his tech up. So not the end of the world. As for reward at least. And RecoN is now switching into the Arbaletria. So after your comments about how he wouldn't find any value, he's looking for value.
Yeah, it's somewhat puzzling then not to see the Royal Institute, because especially for the Arbaletria, this would be massive with the crossbow stir-ups and of course Gambesons. Those techs really pay for their price in Castle, and if you want to go heavy on the Arbaletria, those could be the difference maker.
I feel like I wouldn't have expected Arbaletria spam just because of the mangonels. Like, I was expecting more lenient to Knights, if anything. So yeah, there are loads of surprising layers to what RecoN's doing here. Does mean over time, though, he's going to be able to win out the hyper late game situation. And let's keep in mind, this is a guy who does like to trade, so maybe that's another thing in his mind. He doesn't care. He knows we're going to be going for another hour game. Please, God, no.
Well, speaking of an hour-long game, though, Wam is going to be much more set up for late game than he was in the previous game. He is going to be in control of 4 relics, possibly even 5. Actually, no, the 5th relic is going to be impossible to grab, but still, 4 relics is nothing to be ashamed of.
Oh no, the French horsemen have turned against us. We cleaned up. RecoN just trying to offset the requirement to transition to farms as best he can, as long as he can. Even set up walls on the far north side to try and condense action across the battlefield. But you can see those farms are an inevitability. But it is slowly transitioning to them now, so you're not behind in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, well, you still have a lot of pawns to work with, but sustainability is a big factor, so you can justify doing that. Looks like it's gonna be a dive from Wam, though. This is risky. You have a lot of choke points that could easily leave you exposed. Especially
considering you don't know where your opponent's army is right now.
Yeah.
In fact, he can come around the back and cut you off and trap you in. Looks like instead he's going to mirror the movement, though. A little bit hesitant to be that kind of wedge between the two.
You gotta save the Springald. He can't fight this until the mangonels are there. He needs to snipe the mangonel first and then come in with the Springald, but here come the Knights from the other side. And RecoN now being torn to multiple directions.
Well, he's reacting all right for now. Crossbows aren't in this fight. Spearmen are going to backstep away. Springald count is, of course, now with Wam, courtesy of building in the field. see the hesitation. RecoN just can't take the fight right now. Can't build more siege either. Is continuing to escalate the arbitrary account, but pretty underwhelming at this stage. Flash will at least commence.
Oh, the Mangonel though.
And, so the siege,
He's not noticing.
the siege. Wham! Mistakes made. One sprue down. Mangonel's also going to fall to this. Too much damage coming in. Whoopsie.
That's a big loss out there, because with the support of the archers, the Spearmen of RecoN win this battle big time here, and this is a cleanup, KP. As good as it gets for RecoN, really.
Exactly. It's production on the defensive. It's always going to come out ahead for RecoN in this situation. The forward network outpost was only now being set up, but yet Wam might be forced to run away. Second wave of crossbows coming in. Don't underrate his ability to pepper arrows into people here. 32 in the field. See how he can do. Spearman still there to answer him. Archers as well. Yes, he'll get the outposts up, but the price is definitely going to be high. And there's also a second wave of Lancers wrapping in on the east flank.
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? Crossbows still standing strong in the middle of the field here, and the Lancers, those are the annoying part over here. A lot of damage done to the food eco, and RecoN can't afford to spare forces to clean them up.
RecoN was also looking for a keep drop that he can't get. The timing could not be worse. He can't actually stop them with a keep at all. Oh, trying to torch down the outpost, but like this is do or die right now. This is, I don't even know how many idle eco, probably 50 at this stage. Not working for him, and he cannot get the keep drop up until these Lancers are gone.
Yeah, here comes the keep over here, losing a lot of villagers in the meantime, though. Cleaning up the forces of Wam, however. Massive casualties on both sides, and you get the feel that Wam has probably gotten the better out of this one. But RecoN has to fight for this because he is desperate for gold. Gold that is now being denied by those towers.
Yeah, you see them being rushed up right now. He can't afford the gaps in his eco again. Just has to be gather, gather, gather as fast as possible. Finally, we realize he has no choice but to start torching down anything and everything, but that just means more idle eco, more damage being done. Finally, Wam will be pushed out, but static emplacements will remain.
Yeah, that's the problem. It still takes some time to clean up those towers, and behind this one, Wam is pulling ahead when it comes to the eco. He is still collecting relics, and it's... in a way, these fights weren't won by Wam, but the war, he definitely stepped ahead, because at the end of the day, he has done a lot more damage to RecoN than what he suffered from.
It's territorial carve-up. He's got so much of the map under his influence, and he just saw the weakness of RecoN, lacking gold. And in fact, it looks like RecoN is going to make a great migration north side just to try and secure some, but that if it gets exposed, that if it gets revealed, which I think it is revealed by an outpost right now, you're dead.
Yeah, it's risky. He doesn't even have the stone to make a keep there to protect those. Also, now has to focus on something else as well. Sacred sites both being captured by Wam. So suddenly RecoN is put on a timer. He can't just sit behind and defend. At one point, he's gonna have to break out of his base.
Oi, 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 RecoN needs to mass forces quick for a breakout as well. Look at that military count with all the static defenses as well. You can't help but feel Wam is doing everything he needs to now. Traction trebuchets wheeling in. This keep wasn't even used for production in the end, which is one of the big upsides to the French. So it's not going to get any bang for buck whatsoever.
Yeah, he's just not getting that gold mine of the north. He is lacking gold so badly, and that cuts him away from essentially all premium units he wants to make. Not a single knight on the battlefield, barely any men-at-arms, just a handful of arbaletiers. And just a single Springald as well. Puts him behind the Springald War as well.
I actually wonder if that's why he didn't go Royal Institute, is the lack of gold he knew he'd have access to.
That's a good point. In fact, I'm actually wondering how much resources he has in the guild hall. Ouch. Ouch.
Yeah, so
big
he
ouch.
Pulled out. Oof. He needs to get those farms sorted soon if he wants any sort of long-term scalability in this game. Still, one big concern is, of course, the French. They do not function well without access to gold.
That's an understatement. They are just struggling without gold, like RecoN is doing right now. Going very heavy with the composition of archers and crossbows, but once Mangonels roll out on the battlefield, he's gonna have no response to them because he simply couldn't afford Springolds for so long.
Yeah, it feels like RecoN's strategy is just Zerg Spearmen. You can see military academies being pumped. Spearmen are being queued up, so he's just going cheap bang for buck and looking to overwhelm as best he can.
Yeah, although you have to wonder whether that's out of desperation.
What are you doing? Sorry, I just had to be the overseer there, make sure that they were working. Taking coffee breaks.
Fine. Back they are, yeah. big problems for RecoN here. Like, he is confined into his base. His eco is mostly functional, but he's on a timer with 7 minutes remaining. He still has some Lancers roaming his base, occasionally picking off some villagers. He's got a slow moving unit composition, but above all, no response to mangonels and just a siege-heavy composition that Wam could field.
I think if he had some cavalry, he could just decap the northern sacred site, but that's the thing that he just doesn't have. That's literally the only thing he doesn't have. Building everything but cavalry, as the French. What?
That's never a good sign. It looks like Wam, he wants to push in now, slowly pushing through that one opening that we have on the north.
I mean, it's more than just not a good sign. It's terrible when you're up against siege and you can't build anti-siege. That's when cavalry makes the most sense.
Yep.
It's just his economy sucks right now. Like his food income isn't good enough to sustain horseman pushes or knight pushes.
And speaking of economy, Wam, now pop-capped, also floating 5,000 gold almost. He's going to buy some food, get to Imperial with the white stupa, so he's gonna have the attack advantage too. RecoN, he might need to force a decisive fight here soon. I just don't feel like his unit composition is suitable for that.
He'll have a go point. It'll be very thin though, and probably very underwhelming, considering it's just pokey sticks all around. This is some of the worst looking farm transitions I've seen, actually. Just every pond has farms around it. Oh, good lord. It feels rough to watch, actually. I mean, RecoN, after how hard he worked for game one, you can't help but feel that Wam has dictated pace in this one more or less the entire time.
Yeah, exactly. That start, that tower threw off the timings of RecoN so much. Delay the second TC, and like, keep in mind, RecoN's second TC came up at the same time that Wam reached Castle Age and started building his own. That should tell you how good of a game Wam has had, and how delayed RecoN was.
That was actually a cool idea there by RecoN. He full line formation and spread out to try and intercept any knights. He at least cleans them up, so no Lancers on the battlefield now for Wam, but he doesn't need them anymore. This does, however, free up RecoN to pursue a sacred site. It's going to cost him dearly to get the decap, though.
Yeah, it's actually similar to what we have seen at the end of the previous game. It's like, you have to decap the sacred site, but you're going to have to sacrifice so much for doing so. The moment you send your army to decap the sacred site, Wam is going to push into your base with those traps and just take down so many buildings, kill 20, 25 villagers, and even if you decap the sacred site, you just lost so much that it might not be possible to recover from.
Yeah, and the difference is the economies were a lot deeper in that game. So losing an army was kind of more of a shrug, whereas losing an army at this stage could be detrimental to your existence.
Looks like the push is
coming
coming in.
RecoN, tech up. It's going to be College of Artillery. Unless he wants to go for a red palace drop somewhere. I very much doubt it, though. Sparrow County is actually looking really good for RecoN. This might surprise Wam. I don't think he expected this many anti-siege.
He's also going up to Imperial. Hold the phone here, KP.
Yeah,
he's actually got the numbers advantage.
Yeah, it's the College of Artillery play.
The Springald's creeping up from the other side. Mangoes could be picked off.
Yeah, he's looking for it. That's the premium target, and it looks like Wam's not reacting. Not paying attention. That was remarkably well done, considering shot triggers is on one side. To sneak in like that, good impact from RecoN, cleaning up a lot of the siege, and now setting Wam back. RecoN says this game is not over yet.
Terrific game here by Wam. Look at that. He's just losing all the siege. Oh my goodness, this is so painful for him. And RecoN, he played the same thing as in Feudal. Waited for his opponent to blink first with Imperial and only went after that, intercepting all the siege. This was one of the most gorgeously orchestrated fights I've ever seen. The flank around with those lower range Springolds was absolutely marvelous. Picked off all the siege, and now he might have momentum to decap one of those sacred sites.
Needs to be fast though. Wam is reproducing the army, looking to move out, and also transitioning the horsemen to counter this move. So RecoN, time is definitely not on his side. 3 minutes away from a victory for Wam. So many outposts on the west side here. His only choice should be north. In fact, even in attempting this is a throwaway of an army you can't afford right now.
Oh, this is gonna get concerning though for him. Only 3 minutes remaining. He has to get through layers and layers of towers, most of them with Springald emplacements, and the army numbers increasing for Wam. He doesn't need to win this. He just needs to hold those sacred sites for 2.5 more minutes, and he is going to get the victory here.
Oh, RecoN, if only he knew about the northern one. and how limited the defenses are up there, he'd already be pushed in that direction, but instead, he's fighting in the completely wrong location. Keep drop now coming in.
But there's the Bombard Tower. Bombard Tower might kill the villagers before the keep goes up. 2 minutes on the clock here. Oh my goodness. KB, does he have a chance?
Oh lordy. No, it is done. It's short. I mean, yeah, there's, wow, let's keep this alive. He could definitely see how he killed an outpost. 2 outposts. It only cost him an entire army, Lidakor. He's got this.
Oh, this is gonna hurt so much. And look at that. Army numbers just getting depleted out there. 190 population against 142 only. And he's just getting further and further away from those sacred sites rather than getting closer. And this is why you always gotta cap every single sacred site you can. Because you never know when you can force a victory condition like this. If you didn't have the sacred site here for Wam, I would dare to say that this was a relatively even game. But with the sacred sites out there, it's a different story because RecoN has to take a lot of risks here for the sake of trying to decap either of those.
And RecoN, the thing that he really needed for a decap was cavalry, which he still really doesn't have. I mean, he has 5 horsemen. This decap isn't happening. It means we're going to be going to map number 3. I think it was it Dry Arabia? No, it's Kawasan. We're going to Kawasan.
Yeah, ooh, long time no see. Good old friend Kawasan. Still, there is 1 minute left, but I don't fancy the chances of RecoN right now. Most of his army is spearmen. Thing is that if you give time for Wam, he's going to turn all the stone that he's getting from the White Stupa into bombard emplacements. A couple of minutes ago, most of the towers had spring-load emplacements. The newly built towers have bombards on them right now, making it substantially more difficult to push this.
Why would you push a trebuchet in the north and a cannon in the south?
Might just be a diversion, but I feel like this could just be desperation, lack of concentration.
Diversion for us or him? I'm not sure. This one is done, though. Credit to RecoN, he's going to stick it out to the bitter end, but it looks chalked. If he get the key drop, maybe. But
it's getting too late. 15 seconds, KP.
It's Trebs bombards. It's too late. There's no way. RecoN gives it his best shot, but the keep is going to be cancelled. 10 seconds away. Wam ring-a-ding-dings his way through to a map number 2 win, which means we are going to need a third one to decide it here. RecoN, although he took that early lead, is finding out quickly that making day number 2 at any weekly is incredibly difficult.
What a game here from both sides, really. RecoN, you get the feel that he was off to a very pedestrian start. In fact, his entire game plan at the beginning of the game was thrown off a cliff by Wam's Tower Rush. But after that, he managed to recover really well given the circumstances. So fighting from a disadvantageous position, he definitely had some good moves, which could give him some promise for him to be able to take the final map, Kawasan, which is his own home map. So he definitely feels comfortable on this one. This is far from done, as RecoN is still trying to keep his hope alive to qualify from the weekly points, not having to play the September monthly or the last chance qualifiers for a ticket to Heidelberg. Yeah. As we jump into game number 3, it is going to be on the home map of RecoN. It is going to be Kawasan, long time no see. With a civilization matchup we don't commonly see over here, it is the Mongols versus the English. Spawning in on the right side is going to be RecoN playing as the Mongols in blue. And in the English is going to be Wam with the red color. KP, we talked about this matchup a lot. How are your feelings going into this game about this?
Man, I am looking forward to being educated in English ways. I think the Civ can do similarly what the HRE has been shown to do against the Mongols. It's just there's a bigger focus on range and galleys than, say, healing with the HRE. But I think it's a good pick by Wam. I think it's pretty smart. It feels like it's one step ahead, and I think this maybe leans towards what we were talking about with the whole idea of part-time versus full.
Well, it's not just part-time versus full. It is also Mongols versus English, and I guess the biggest question mark right now is how RecoN is going to open this up. Obviously, going for Spearmen here, not something that you necessarily want to do against the English, because they can just match that with men and arms. So if you want to go for any kind of Dark Age aggression, you likely are thinking about Horsemen instead. No signs of any kind of aggression just yet from RecoN. I'm actually wondering whether he already has a dock or not, because if he doesn't, he's either going to drop one very soon or it's going to be a stable.
Yeah, it looks like he's kind of weighing up his options. Usually when you go for the Uvi to start off with, you're delayed, right? And it is going to be stables to begin with. Like this choice, he's basically forcing Wam to do something first and then reacting. And The reason why I love this choice actually against the English Lidakor is that Wam cannot build Spearmen until Feudal Age.
Yeah, that's the big thing. That's the trade-off you're taking out there. Going for Spearmen here makes no sense for the Mongols because the Man-at-Arms deal with them, but take a look at the Horsemen. English, all they can do in Dark Age against Horsemen is use Men-at-Arms, and those Men-at-Arms, they are not spectacular when it comes to fighting Horsemen, especially if you consider the fact that RecoN is going to take much more cost-efficient fights because his Horsemen come at a massive discount compared to the Men-at-Arms.
I mean, it's just the fact that Men-at-Arms can never choose to win the fight, right? It's against Spears, there's a threat of brace, but against a boy at arms or baby arms, they are at this age, you just look at them and walk away. You should always weave around them. That's always the beautiful thing. I think the Horsemen are just always the go-to unit right now of AOE4 because of the flexibility that they offer.
Yeah, you see Wam is going to have to drop the barracks himself. The problem here that he's facing has multiple dimensions. One of them is the fact that he's going to be consuming his gold. So not only is he consuming his food, he's also consuming gold. So that is going to further delay his Feudal Age. And also the fact that he cannot take optimal engagements against those Horsemen if he can take any. Because, as you said, Horsemen will be the ones choosing where to take the fight and when to take the fight.
And this is why we expect RecoN to continue to delay his dock, simply because if you drop it now, then those boy arms have a way of forcing you to fight. Whereas the longer you delay it, the more that you set the pace.
Dock is already up.
Yep, already in, already starting to torch, and first Men-at-Arms is coming out, but of course they are slow to run across, slow to do some serious damage.
Yeah, indeed, first Men-at-Arms now out here. To be honest, if you're RecoN, you could even just contemplate not committing a lot to this one and just making Wam commit to a bunch of Men-at-Arms, because Wam has to respect those Horsemen. He has to keep pumping out those pricey Men-at-Arms. And you could just think about dropping your own dock and possibly just beat him to Feudal Age and then build from there.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I think the cool thing is you can just keep investing in Horsemen anyway, force your opponent to keep investing in Men-at-Arms, and the Horsemen should have more value. It's very difficult to reach a stage where early Men-at-Arms can actually dive a TC anyway, even if you've got 20 of them. Just because they're still slow and their ranged armor is negligible. They're still taking about half damage per arrow being fired.
Yeah, keep in mind that just building up those Horseman numbers are valuable for RecoN, not only because they do well against those Men-at-Arms, it's also because going into Feudal Age, Wam will go with the Council Hall, so there will be longbows on the field, something that you already have a counter for. Sure enough, Spearmen will make an appearance, but you're gonna be more than happy to just save your Horsemen from Dark Age, and then just add archers to pick off the spears.
I was wondering when he's gonna do this. RecoN could just keep doing laps and coming in and torching. Lap, torch, lap, torch, lap, torch. You probably get like 4 or 5 torches out before the Men-at-Arms arrive each time. So it's a cool way of doing this. Also, if he notices that Wam's not paying attention, he can just aggro drag away from the dock and then send the rest of the troops in.
Yeah, and you're just dancing around out there, and you see, you invest into a ton of Men-at-Arms here if you're Wam with barely any results. You can't do damage to the Horsemen, you just play catch.
Oh, Lidakor, this is the best part. This is what I was talking about. RecoN, like, you know, he could have waited and not went for a dock and then waited for his opponent to go looking for the dock. Now, Wam is looking for a dock that he will actually find. It got built in the end. So now he's going to get the value. He's going to get the trade out. And keep in mind that he set up his dock earlier, so Wam has already returned more food than what RecoN has.
Yeah, indeed. The investment paid much better right now for Wam. Although if he loses the Man-at-Arms here to the Horsemen, it's going to be much more painful.
Yeah, I think what he hasn't respected is the fact that he needs to hold Men-at-Arms back at base, because that Horseman count will kill you. You're not that impressive. Even though your melee armor seems kind of absurd to most players' perspectives right now, against this many Horsemen, it's irrelevant.
Yeah, it is irrelevant. And the thing is, those are very pricey units we're talking about.
Not today. Khan's got his boys out in force. Boy, arms kind of feeling a little bit outnumbered right now. Horsemen need to be careful. In fact, RecoN not peeling them back just yet. He's going to lose one, but plenty more where that came from. And he'll return to torch the dock. Needs to get rid of it before Feudal Age is reached for Wam. RecoN already underway with his tech up as well.
Yeah, now he needs to clean that dock up, because his game plan was that he also adds his own dock, but he just lost his, so now he needs to clean up the dock here for Wam. Looks like indeed both players will end up losing their dock over here. Love the force drop by Bam. Drops off the food before the dock goes down, so he does get all the food carried by those fishing ships.
And wants to stay away from the edges so he doesn't get burnt by the Horsemen now. Horsemen that if they play this right, they could easily pick apart the men-at-arms that remain. In fact, cool thing, it looks like RecoN is going to actually make a move onto the other lake because now he wants to snipe out all that eco that's idling there.
Yeah, looks like Feudal Age is going to be a little lagging behind here for RecoN, but not much, so rather similar timings for the two players. Spearman already out there. Question is, what is going to be RecoN's answer?
So RecoN knows there's going to be an attempt on the other dock. The problem that you have with your Wam is your men-at-arms can't actually react at the same speed. So you have to be very sneaky about how you do this.
This is bigger. You have horsemen and your opponent only has one scout. If you can pick off that scout, that sneaky dog from RecoN might go unnoticed.
Just a little boy arms in. Upgrade for the horseman has come through, so they just got a 25% increase in health as well as more damage. And on the other side, keep in mind that Wam has yet to upgrade his boy arms, despite how cheap it is to do so.
Oh, and look at that, the dance around once again with the horseman. Might actually get a villager kill here on the dog before it goes up.
Interesting choice to peel the horseman off the way he did. Means that he wasn't able to block this out indefinitely. He has gone for the dock, but I think it did get blocked in the end, so it didn't go up, which means he can't even get fishing boats out to be annoying. Okay, he did get it up. Okay, so that's good. That's
the first light chunk is already out.
Yes, he only needs one as well. Like, he knows he's going to lose the dock, but now he can kill off a few of these fishing boats.
Or a few of the spearmen even. Horsemen.
A few of the men-at-arms even. I mean, damage is quite high on boats, right? So despite the fact you're meant to be tanky, you definitely don't look it. Even more so when Wam has still yet to get the upgrade for men-at-arms, despite the fact that he's building more of them.
Ah, it's so weird. It's such a cheap upgrade even, like nothing...
It's absurdly cheap. It's like 50 resources, I think?
Yeah, look at that. There it is. Doesn't even take a lot of time.
I mean, I guarantee this is one of those I forgot moments.
Yeah, possibly.
It has to be.
It's annoying, right? Because there's a big jump as well. Like Dark Age men-at-arms are really underwhelming. Much more efficient are the ones in Feudal.
Meanwhile, more docks being established. Light junks also coming out. So 2 light junks to 1 galley. You'd think that would be a fair fight. It's not. The galley kicks the crap out of them. And the dock's going down. Some more reinforcements will not be arriving soon. RecoN has to make his move. Looks to torch down the other dock, but with a limited count of horsemen and 1 galley already built, I have my doubts about how successful this is going to be.
It looks like he's just trying to distract 1 galley out there, but he shouldn't have enough time to burn that dock down, rather. But he manages to snap a couple of the fishing ships, and honestly, that galley is distracted. He might even end up losing the dock at this pace.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that Wam hasn't reacted to that still. I mean, I know the light junks are annoying, but condense the fight and it's on your side. But instead, the galley isn't even moving still. He's moving the land army around instead, which means that RecoN, if he micros this right, will have enough time to burn the dock.
This is good damage done already, if you think about that. He killed like 5 or 6 fishing ships for minimal investment, really. At the end of the day, the dock stays up, but still, damage has been done.
And keep in mind that RecoN is playing wide because he has mobility on his side, so he's playing both lakes. Just trying to split Wam up. And the issue for Wam is it seems gluttonous to go on both lakes like this, because you feel like you should be able to guard both with galleys, but I do think your economy is going to get a bit stretched at this rate, especially when villagers get spotted out on the deer like this. Oh, dearie. Yeah,
so
it's
painful.
Still not done.
And
it's
RecoN knows
right now.
RecoN knows fully well that his opponent is stretched on food. He saw the villagers being sent out to hunt. That's a sign that he can't sustain himself from fish only, so he's going to commit more and more to raiding those hunters, and accessing food could be a problem soon for Wam.
Yeah, it looks like Wam's going condensed now, switching farms. I expected this instead. The temptation to play deer is high, but when the deer is 40 your base like this, you just can't. It's too risky. Meanwhile, horseman back in. They'll torch down quick enough here. Last one fast, they can just ditch if they want to, but instead they want to commit to make sure a second galley can't come out. Wam's army far too slow to respond because what is always the weakness of the English?
Mobility. Oh, love the units being sent out to torch down the ships as well. They do a lot of damage out there. So do the horsemen raiding those lumberjacks. Might actually get away with a couple of kills here.
Yeah, there's just not enough troops to defend here. The entire problem is what we just mentioned, mobility. Like, Wam is reacting. And by the way, this is a good sign for RecoN, because if you remember game 1, why he was able to take such definitive control in that game was because he forced Wam to put out 1,000,000 fires. He can do the same with this composition. However, he did just lose half of the horsemen in the blink of the eyes. So
Yeah,
a little bit worrying.
Yeah, it's worrisome. Like, he can't really take a direct engagement against the army of Wam. Too many spearmen, too many men-at-arms to deal with only using horsemen. However, he hasn't taken a single direct engagement ever since the start of the game. He just keeps raiding and raiding, keep running circles around the enemy base, and just buying himself time, not only to keep raiding these hunters, but also to beat his opponent to castle by a massive margin.
Yeah, that's impressive. And he gets away with it because he sees how many men-at-arms have been built by Wam. So he's like, okay, you've invested so much, 120 resources per. There's no way you can compete. And also keep in mind, he built enough junks to control the Northern Lake, so RecoN comes out ahead in almost every regard, despite how that looked.
Oh, look at that!
Back and finish off the dock, so burns that as well. That's going to go down. That's going to idle eco. Great
that is painful.
from the raining horses.
That is so painful. It is not like destructive, or not even destructive, but decisive damage being done. It's the fact that it delays things. Uh-oh, this could be massive.
Speaking of painful, the timing's slightly off. RecoN will be able to complete the tech up and walk away. But he won't be able to access the step readout gold straight off. And that's going to be problematic because RecoN doesn't really have any gold in the bank.
Yeah, he might have dodged the bullet over here because those got really close to denying that landmark. Luckily for him, he's got one tower out here with arrow slits, and most of the army for Wam is actually melee, so he can't really dive under that tower or even close to the gold mine.
Yeah, most of that army isn't very tanky, is it, Lidakor? I find like the early, or rather Vanguard men-at-arms aren't that effective. Yeah, he's still Vanguard men-at-arms at 13 minutes in the game.
Oh, they are just so bad, I mean. Will he have enough gold for just 1 or 2 Lancers? That might be enough for him to at least save that tower. Looks like he's gonna have to be leaving that gold mine. This is painful, actually much more painful than I initially expected.
It's actually not as bad as you think because RecoN got a few crossbows out. This is one of those situations where crossbows is good because your opponent has built all these heavily armored units that actually don't even have that much health.
And you want a unit that doesn't cost a lot of gold.
Exactly. I'm kind of surprised. Like, it's actually a brilliant read by RecoN. Usually it would feel suboptimal at the start of the age up, but you're on the defensive and your opponent has built boy arms. It doesn't get better than this.
At least this shields Wam's castle age over here, and he's gonna be up with the King's Palace rather soon. In an exposed position it is, so you gotta be careful if you're Wam. But for the time being, he's keeping RecoN pinned inside his base.
Yeah, allows him to get in range. Back step away from this. Needs to be careful. The Lombos are threatening for the crossbows in small quantities here. But a few more Lancers are coming out, so it can become quite overwhelming for the English Vanguard. And now Wam, now that he has teched up, I think he will just be going into those Knights as hardcore as he can. Step down, at least slows down again, as the villagers are going to be pushed away and the Lombos are extracting some value. But overall, you think this might be the end of the road for the front line.
Yeah, that's the big thing, right?
Much more value.
It was a delay. It was delayed caused on those villagers. A couple of villagers also got picked off, but at the end of the day, the army for Wam disappears, and look at what RecoN has. He has 7 crossbows, 3 knights out there. As you said, Wam might just go for his own knights, but he's already gonna be outnumbered in that department. Plus, RecoN already has the counter unit. That's the problem. You delayed him, but your army is gone.
And the cool thing actually for RecoN is if he sets up in the center here, gets an outpost up, goes siege engineering improved, he can delete your naval economy. And then he can also come straight for your base afterwards.
Yep, was about to say that. You can just drop Springolds with your crossbows, and Springolds do really well against ships ever since they got buffed at one point during this year. So, a couple of Springolds on such tiny ponds when there is nowhere left to go could easily wipe out all the fishing gear that we have. And is that the TC moving up? Or is it the second TC? No, it's the first one.
That's just the first. I'm wondering why he felt the need to move it like that, though.
Yeah.
Bit weird.
Might actually want some space for pastures, maybe, or something along those lines.
Possibly. Love that he's playing deer, though. Just kind of floating some of his eco on land. You know that Wam's going to be outdoing you with the farm, so you need some way of competing. I feel like RecoN needs to be posturing aggressively, though. Like, if he sits back too long, this is going to allow Wam to get past this weak phase in Castle Age.
Yeah, Wam is on 2 TCs, let's not forget, and he's transitioning to farms. So at one point, the fishing eco is going to be irrelevant, and from that point on, Wam is going to have a massive advantage over his opponent, or is setting himself up to collect relics as well with the monastery. So as you said, RecoN has to be aggro over here. He needs to leverage the fishing eco here and do some damage. His army is decisively able to take down the enemy here. Like, not even a chance for Wam to stop that many knights and crossbows. It's just the fact that RecoN needs to be a lot more aggressive than what he is right now.
Seems hesitant though. It's one of those tough things when you reach this stage in the game. You know your opponent's probably pushing knights, and Mongols can't wall. So you feel like you're quite exposed in this situation. And yeah, he gets confirmation of the knights on the north side, but still just not really moving out.
The problem is that he knows that he's up against 2 TCs, and fishing is going to get more and more irrelevant. In fact, if the fishing is gone, RecoN's eco is going to collapse, or at least get borderline close to collapsing. Half of his food, in fact, I think most of his food eco, overall half of his eco, is in the form of fish.
Well, I think he's prepping himself for a secondary TC. Looks like that's the plan for RecoN. He's even going for the mobility, so we'll be able to pack up and move around. But interesting choice. It just means that he's turtling, though, essentially. And it means that Wam can reach an escalation point where his heavy cavalry should be higher in count in the next 2 minutes.
It's also the walls. If you go back to game number 1, part of the reason why RecoN was so effective in that game is because he always had walls to fall back behind, and he could just keep raiding. This time around, he has no walls, and Wam does. So it's much more difficult for RecoN to push in and do damage than it is for Wam.
Does feel tough to just not be contesting this lake at all, though. You can see he tried to breach in with the Lancers on the north side. Problem is he didn't bring the Khan, so doesn't even have the benefit, the mobility arrow to get around this. Is now pumping into Siege Engineering Improved, though, so we will see a transition soon. Hopefully into the center. I think if he gets an outpost set up there, 2 or 3 traction trebs, he can force Wam to fight him.
And that could be an interesting point, indeed. In fact, I would love to see RecoN doing that. Getting a tower in the middle for a YAM network, also securing the berries. If you think about that, he needs a consistent source of food. He probably doesn't want to commit to dropping a lot of pastures. And he could easily buffer this up by just going for the berries in the middle. It's like infinite food, and it could give you a lot of momentum. And it would also give you a very good staging ground to assault the base of Wam. And keep in mind, the King's Pass is very much exposed on the front. So you could easily, well, not necessarily easily, but it is a realistic target for you to trap down.
Yeah, I think there's some underrated value there as well, because there's also a stone placement over there. So you can set up a Fort Uvu, set up military production, and all of a sudden you're pushing your crossbows into your opponent's base in half the time.
Oh, walls being denied over here. Villager getting picked off as well. So not all walls will go up. And look at that. This Shaman has to give up on this one. Wolf chasing him, and Relic already walled in. So this will be denied by Wam, who himself is already collecting Relic number 2.
Yeah, Wam should get at least 3 at the end of this. Outpost finally going up in the center, but delayed by RecoN. Not guarded. So 3 little snipe there. Wam will take those, especially considering the knight count is now starting to look in his favor. Problem also for RecoN is he's becoming more reliant on crossbows up against longbows. Of course, the counter to that is with double Mangonel, as long as he has enough knights to keep them at bay, it should be the MVP for RecoN in these fights.
This is so weird for RecoN. He's playing way less aggro than he did before, and it's not helping him right now. He's allowing Wam to set up a very strong and reliable army. Now Wam has the eco lead. He's got the strong position in the middle of the network of castles. Wam's starting to mine stone, possibly thinking about the keep drop at one point. And he's got a pretty decisive amount of longbows as well, ready to snap down those crossbows. And at this point, all that Wam needs to do is just wait for a moment where he can catch his opponent off guard, snipe the mangonels, and from that point on, it's free real estate.
Think of it this way. This game for RecoN is high pressure. It's not a $10,000+ game because it doesn't secure him Wololo straight away. But as I already mentioned, this is probably the kryptonite for him. This is the biggest challenge. I think playstyle-wise, he knows it as well. And despite the playstyle playing to his benefit in game 1, there's got to be a level of fatigue from that and a frustration with game 2. So he wants to play it slower, play it a little bit more defensive. But by doing so, he is allowing the English to reach their peak freely.
Yeah, that's the big point here, right? Like, you can't fault him for playing a little bit more cautiously. He doesn't want to make a critical mistake and throw the game away. On the other hand, at this point, playing this one cautiously is actually hurting him more than it helps him, because he's going to be suffering from the lack of walls, so Wam is going to have the chance to raid him much more than he does. And oh, the mangonels. This could be a disaster, KP.
Mangonels. It's not guarding him. It's not guarding him. Freebies. Knights straight in. 2 of them going to fall. Crossbows have to stand their ground here, Mangonel. doing the best it can up against the Lombos, but it feels like it might not be enough on its lonesome. 2 shots coming out, barely any damage done. Knight still standing, and crossbow count now going to 0.
But look at the flank.
Will look for vengeance, wrap around in with the Lancers. Straight on top of the Knights and the Archers. But this looks like he maybe can stabilize. Knights are more or less gone. Archer count will be chased down as well. Wam will be repelled away, but the price is high for RecoN.
Yeah, this could have been so much better. Imagine that those mangonels weren't picked off at the beginning. Still, given the circumstances, terrific fight here for RecoN, and now he's got momentum. He's got the Knight numbers. This is where you have to start using that mobility advantage. Exploit the fact that the English are so weak. This is the moment where RecoN can't remain cautious. He needs to be aggressive here and do some damage with these Knights.
Knights need to go deep, though. Defensive keep coming out from Wam, looking to stabilize. And he might be able to off the back of this. You have to wonder how much exposed eco is there, how much warding's going on. The options might be quite limited for RecoN, as is the Lance account. Feels like these guys will not be able to do enough on their own. At least, maybe it gives a stabilization point, because RecoN could choose to take center and rebuild the siege. If he holds from there, it could be good, because right now, if you look at the military count, considering there's 2 galleys in the mixer, Wam does not have much to fight with.
I think the big point here is that RecoN now is the aggressor. That was the thing that he was missing. He was defending for so long, and now he's up against an opponent with a much slower army. He can just force his opponent to catch him all around, running around his base, keeping those farmers idle, keeping those crossbows chasing, and this is something that could easily give a massive recovery potential for RecoN, because off the back of this, he's gonna have the chance to secure the middle and then mount an assault from that.
Good start to securing it as well. Getting rid of the vision, getting his own vision up, as well as the Yam. Spiral's being built on the front side as well to make sure that Wam can't get a reactionary play. And then it should be into Trebs to open up with, considering mangoes are no longer needed, despite the fact he threw them away, despite the fact they were sacrificed. Wam did lose the Archer Battalion in the end.
Ooh, network of Citadels now coming in here. The concern here for Wam is that RecoN has no desire to fight anymore. He just wants to keep raiding and raiding, just like game number 1, and he's got a sufficient enough Lancer force to accomplish that with, and a lot of exposed farming eco could fall victim to these Lancers. Oh, this is scary for Wam.
RecoN, I think he just got military academies so he can continue to replicate his army, escalate it quicker. Wam still playing catch-up, might be left in the dust. His upside is having a network of citadels. His downside is as a premium target for traction trebs. RecoN just needs to get the wood to start building into those.
Yeah, he's got some Springbolt setting up as well. Nice low chip damage on the villagers.
Reminds me of the good old age of Springbolts. Thank God those are dead.
I mean, they are still a pretty decent auxiliary unit out there. They do some damage to those knights. You gotta be careful, though. It's actually pretty good to bait those units in there, aggro them, and then fall back to the hilltop.
That's what I'm about to say, right? You hit them, they get all aggro, they start chasing out. If Wam's not paying attention, that's a free knight or 2 just dead. Oh my. You can see this timing, how important it was for RecoN to gain momentum here. That south side is gold central. Fat stack and 2 smalls. That's going to sustain him indefinitely.
Look at that, fishing eco.
He's going after galleys first. I'll open up access onto the docks. In the meantime, traction trebs now setting up to deal with the keep. Wam very limited in stone to keep it alive.
Yeah, the key thing here is that while fishing is no longer the priority here for Wam, if you pick off the fishing, then any kind of raid that you do on the farming is going to completely cripple the food eco of Wam, because farming is going to be the only source of food for him. So he won't even have that buffer of the fishing eco anymore once you pick those off. But now Traction Trebuchet is making an appearance, starting to shell that keep. And as you said, Wam, limited on stone, might struggle to keep this repaired.
Especially once it goes up to about 3. For the moment, you can see RecoN insulates himself further on the Springle count, paranoid of what might be coming, for good reason, considering Wam has the keep plus the siege workshop to build Springles. Instead, though, Wam is going into the Treb himself first. Interesting choice here. Track Trebs.
Freebie.
Hasn't backed up, moved away yet. Whoopsie. Clash may be coming out. Wam trying to probe for a point of weakness. There it is, attack speed on the side, but the archers behind it, the crossbows on both sides could be a big deal breaker here. Looks like RecoN might actually have the Surge Force to overwhelm. Knight's fallen too fast on the English side. Frontline about to fall, and after that, the crossbows might be in trouble. Especially with the second wave coming behind. And also, don't forget the extra siege that RecoN is prepping. Make sure he can stay here indefinitely.
Oh, beautiful micro with the Springles though for Wam picking off so many siege weapons from the other side. Look at that, RecoN just losing all the Springles, and this might be a little too uphills of a battle for RecoN to push. Defense arrow helped a lot to offset the difference with network of citadels, but still, Wam holds his position for the time being, lives to see another day, and dragging this game out in a matchup where a late game probably favors the English. So as long as he's surviving, he can consider himself happy.
Yeah, I have to wonder if RecoN really needed that, though. Like, it just felt like he was getting baited into a bad fight. This looks good because he wipes the Knights, and then you kind of hang around a bit too long. I think if you backed away as soon as the Knights go down, it's a good trade. But the attempt to dive those crossbows is very ambitious out of RecoN, especially considering he had no traction trebuchets to continue the siege in the meantime.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Like, he didn't just dive in and then behind this one just take down the castle with a bunch of trebuchets. He had no backup siege, so all the game plan was to just dive into that army, which did get buffed by the network of citadels. Ultimately, suboptimal engagement here for RecoN, and the keep still stands. Once again, Springles crawling up to snipe the trebuchet.
About to come out. RecoN's going to lose one for free. That's the back away. He has Prep Siege Workshop, so wants to get into the tech that he's been missing out on so far. Outposts are starting to be sniped out, and Lancers now looking to snipe Eco out on the flanks. Springald might get a freebie here. Moves straight in under the trebuchet. Nice maneuvering by RecoN. Trades 2 Knights to get rid of a treb.
What I would love to see here from RecoN is opening up the south, because first of all, he's going to be threatened by Knights here on the south. Springald Towers should keep his gold miners alive, but if he opens up this front, break through these walls, suddenly he has a lot more raiding potential from the south.
Knights. Gold is about to shut down for RecoN. Now, it's only a small gap, but consider that he needs to escalate Knights and Trebs count pretty quickly here. That might slow down his timing slightly.
Yeah, especially because a freebie could open up once again here. Wam crawling up to the Springolds again. Looks like the Lancers will be able to deal with this, and as I said, as a follow-up, you want to breach these walls if you're RecoN, because you want to find a new angle to attack from.
Definitely. It's getting a little bit stalematey in the center. Not that many Lancers here to clash, but at least more than what Wam has on the defensive. See the defense arrow, RecoN. That was premature detonation for sure. That didn't really do anything for him. Go back away now. Really needs some mangoes, but he was forced to go double down on the Springolds. Now, the good news, at least, is with a lack of siege, a lack of melee units, these outposts are going to last a while, and they are a bit of a difference maker. Make it a decent fight for RecoN, but at the end of the day, you are playing crossbows against longbows, and it's not a good fight for you long term.
Not at all. Springald numbers now favoring RecoN, though. He would have a chance to just snipe down that last Springald that's threatening his trap, but instead might end up losing his trebuchet. And look at the Springald production. That might not even be built on the battlefield, just out of a siege workshop. Yeah, look at that. Double siege workshops pumping out these Springolds.
Yeah, he set them up because, first of all, he needed the research, but second of all, you can't have idle army like this in this fight. It's too important.
Yeah, it's way too important. Trebuchet looks like he's getting a heart attack there in the middle. Getting a little confused while the crossbows are shooting at a palisade wall. Bit of a miscoordination of an army here for RecoN.
Yeah, it feels like RecoN's kind of getting a little bit jittery with his approach here. He is starting to save up enough for Imperial. I wonder if that's on the table. He's close to pop cap, but keep in mind, if you do it, the English get to do it as well. And that's when you start to unlock that late game potency the English have.
I wonder if, once again, he's just waiting for Wam to pull the trigger first. Think about it this way. Oh no, he's gonna do it now. In the previous games, he always waited for the opponent to do it first and then rushed it himself. This time around, he's gonna be the first one. Still, I think the problem is that he's just running into a keep here in the middle. He's got the mobility with those knights, but he can't use it. He needs to breach those walls on the south because most of the farming eco that Wam has is on the left side, so he could easily threaten that once he breaches the walls from the south.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference in impotency this time around for RecoN. He gets a really big one up, that's why he's already prepping for the Siege Workshop upgrades. Good opening here, base the Knights in, but really what RecoN would benefit from is 2 mangonels. Especially considering you're about to get the tech up into improved shutter triggers, like you should be able to get away with mangonels now.
Yeah, it's gonna be big. And once you have improved shutter triggers, it's a slow creep of towers, if you think about that. Bombard towers and Springolds with roller shutter triggers is insanely difficult to push, especially when you have a fragile unit composition like what Wam has with all those longbows.
It's true. You can see Wam, he's respecting the aura. Like, this is the thing, this battle always turns into a battle of auras, focusing around those outpost defenses. the problem is for all that ground that Wam gains, he can't easily breach. Instead, he's going to go for his own tech up now. Imperial Age on the way with the Wingard Palace. Means you're going to be delayed, though. Upgrades are going to come through first for RecoN, and he can look to take a fight.
Yeah, that's a scary thing, right? Like, the moment you see Wam reaching Imperial and you already have your own techs, that is your go-to sign. And indeed, improved Shadow triggers in there in 50 seconds, approximately the same time that you're going to have the Wingard Palace finish for Wam.
Yeah, for those wondering how good this tech is, it gives you the same tower range as those traction trebuchets the Mongols have. It's pretty effective.
It really is. It's about to finish. Only one traction trebuchet out there for RecoN, so even if he can take a good fight over here, he doesn't really have a lot of potential to destroy buildings with. That's a little problematic for him, I feel.
Yeah, look at these comps on both sides. It just genuinely feels like the story of if only one of you built mangoes, right? Now, Wam can't do that anymore, but RecoN really can, and he continues to not do so.
Well, he did it once. It didn't work out well, so let's cut him some slack.
That's true, but, you know, in that situation, you say it didn't work out well. He somehow still killed all of the Lombos in the end, right? Like, not directly because of the mangoes, but kind of indirectly.
True, indeed. Against that many longbows, especially once they will have the upgrade or the ability to go for the wallies, you need firepower. You need something that deals with them. And there's a couple of mangonos could really come in handy here.
Yeah, Wam's about to turn into Schmeagol when it comes to his trebuchets here. It's very difficult for you to field them forward to deal with the outposts, considering that Springwood range.
And it's a slow creep up by RecoN. In fact, now Wam is the one who needs to contemplate flanking around, because pushing into bombard towers and those long-range springolds is going to be really difficult here for him. He might need to open up new front lines with the remaining knights he has.
RecoN shuffling in. There's a freebie. That's what he's looking for. Just baiting the trebs out, because as soon as they're gone, he can crawl in with more outposts. Outposts that are getting cannon placements. Biology also being prepped alongside the incendiary arrows. It's going to be a big up for RecoN. Just needs to make sure he's got the siege to blitz through the keep as well. So far, it's just not there, though. I was expecting the bombards. Looks like they're finally on the way. Once they arrive, that's when this gets very difficult for Wam to hold.
Looks like attack speed arrow coming in here. Firepower now out there.
Needs to back up. And like you mentioned before, these springolds, you can just see the damage they're actually doing. Slowly whittling away at troops. It's forcing Wam to commit to a fight that he otherwise wouldn't want to. Lombo count is at least incredibly high, but it still feels like he's trading out poorly because he has to focus fire on each of those knights. Now able to get the good attack speed buffer to give him a good trade, and it feels like RecoN, well, he's finally got the bombards, but now it feels like he needs to get the mangonels.
Yeah, he desperately needs mangonels now. He's trying to make a horseman switch happen, but bombard emplacements not placed on the towers just yet, so those longbows, they are dominating the battlefield right now. But bombard emplacements almost completed, and that could be a game changer, at least buying time for RecoN for a horseman switch.
Yeah, it feels like Wam is not getting anywhere with this. He realizes the threat that's coming. He doesn't know exactly when those outposts are going to get that cannon placement, so we'll back away. Another trebuchet on the front line, but the springald count still healthy, and now the bombards there means that Wam might not be long for this world on the front line.
Yeah, indeed, bombard emplacement, solidifying control over the middle, and now, once the horseman switch comes in, this is devastating for Wam. Everything that he has had would fall to horsemen. And his army is almost exclusively longbowmen, just one spear on the battlefield. Mass horsemen would wipe out his entire army in a blink of an eye.
It's true. He might not be prepped for what's coming. Nice sneaking again by RecoN. Gets another trebuchet, makes his way out. Cannon placements are going to be problematic. Clash comes out from the cavalry. Front line for Wam is not going to last long. And the backbone of this military force, the Lombos, might be in trouble.
That's the problem. It's a very slow. Yeah, it's a very slow, methodical push by RecoN once again, playing a war of attrition, and he's just grinding down his opponent. And sure thing, Wam is going to be given a chance to make a tech switch here, but he's one step behind, and that keep is actually half dead. I think this might be the moment for RecoN to push up with the bombards and finish off that keep.
Even went back for a traction trebuchet, just have that will away damage. He's finally addressing the dock on the south side. It's going to be a hit into Wam's economies. I think he still had some fishing boats working out there. No longer. Once again, Wam is forced to go in. Once again, he's going to take a heavy hit to the archer count because the long range advantage that RecoN has. Oh, the irony up against the English. Horsemen now clashing. Lancer line coming behind this. They'll last a lot longer than Horsemen. Remember, those upgrades coming through in each of these outposts means every time Wam wiggles his way close to them, he runs the risk of being obliterated.
And with no crossbows on the side of Wam, those Lancers become once again relevant for RecoN. For a long time, Wam had his own crossbows, so Lancers didn't work out. But now, it's full longbows, so you can play a mix of Horsemen and Lancers for the best effect. And as you said, the long-range Spring Guards out here just dominating the battlefield, picking off the siege of Wam over and over again.
It's like, what's that? You can't move? Oh, and that's a shame. Switch up now into the men-at-arms from Wam, but that's not going to fare too well considering it's up against crossbows, and also these Spruels and Bombards are not prejudiced in who they assault. They'll take on anything in front of them. They're doing a decent job. Longbow count at least still healthy for Wam. Treb count now going up to 3 as he starts to get through the outpost. This might force RecoN to go faster than he's ready.
Yeah, that's true. If only he had like 2 mangonels to fire upon those longbows with.
If only he had 2 Ford Siege workshops that could build those mangonels.
It's a brutal slugfest in the middle here. Bombard towers, though, increasing in numbers, and right now it's a very slow creep by RecoN. Inch by inch, he's securing ground in the middle, because Wam, he can't gain ground over here. In fact, he has to forfeit ground over and over again, and the time has come for those bombards to set up. This is the moment where that keep falls, I feel.
You ever feel like if this goes on long enough, there's going to be as many bombards as there are lombos? And, it's kind of going that way, right? Like, you're noticing they're slowly just becoming the MVPs, just sniping out. I mean, you know, you're bowl and ball, they're pins. You got to take them out, right? You just got to strike them. It's so easy to do. Like, the lombos just can't ever do enough damage to take out the bombards.
What is RecoN doing, though? This is a prime opportunity to take down that keep, and he's not doing anything.
Hesitant. Yeah, he's given an opportunity again for a rebuild from Wam. I mean, you don't want to be playing this battle of attrition up against the English. It's the best civ in the game for playing that game.
Oh, Bombard's now setting up here. Pathfinding is a little wacky because of those berries, so you gotta be careful, but you want to finish that keep off now.
My favorite part is the cannonballs that, like, go up and then 90 degree down. There you go. There you go.
Hashtag physics.
Yeah, I keep telling people this is not a very realistic game, and they don't believe me, and then I show them stuff like this, you know. On top of that, the fact these lombos have never had to go back to like a Fletcher's and get more arrows just speak for itself.
Once again, push from Wam.
Yeah. It's just like the Springles are actually irrelevant compared to the Bombards. The Bombards are doing 3 times the damage, and they are ignored every time.
The problematic thing here for Wam is that he just keeps sending wave after wave of units into the meat grinder. Springles, like that many Springles, non-stop firing, they do some decent damage against like any kind of unit. Plus, of course, you have the Bombard towers there as well, and RecoN is just playing tower defense at this point, creeping up, taking down the keep, and then once again, when Wam tries to push out, the Bombard towers will just reign supreme.
Oh, finally gets in. Bombard trades his life to get rid of the keep, although it's only on fire, it hasn't been finished yet, so we have to go for the final pounding there. Strong point defense is gone from Wam. Hand cannoneer switch coming out on both sides now. Interesting, but only RecoN going towards chemistry.
Oh, this is a little risky here. Wam obviously has the network of Citadels bonus still. Plus, there is also a lot of longbows to deal with those hand cannoneers, but once again, decent fight over here for RecoN, despite the fact that he's losing a couple of Springolds in the engagement.
Just trying to will away those trebs. He doesn't want the count to go high, because then shattering projectiles comes into the picture. That's why he's trading them out, but starting to make his way through that longbow line. It's below 40 now.
He also needs pop space.
Retreats.
Like, he had way too many Springolds, and Wam barely had any siege, so at this point, having 11 Springolds was a little too much. He just threw away a couple of them, traded it off to some siege from Wam as well.
What? RecoN is building a bow chat.
Ooh, what for?
What? Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Maybe it's on the southern dock, so he can like force a fight in this area. It must be. Yeah, he's gonna try to bait Wam close to the defenses and then pound him down.
Yeah, it's not a terrible idea. I mean, the Baoshuan, as long as it's uncontested, it is dishing out a lot of punishment. It's actually very reminiscent to these Springolds. As long as you can't kill it, it is gonna be a great unit to just deal damage with. Also secures the shoreline.
Yeah, cheat codes aren't being added until Season 3, so you can't just type in, like, you know, for the Flying Dutchman thing from AOE1. It doesn't work. It's quite the perplexing choice, to be honest. It doesn't have that great of a tower range either, so
No.
I'm not
It's not the Chinese
convinced.
Baoshuan. It's just the standard Mongol Baoshuan. Still, something that controls the shoreline.
If he can get it close, he actually might bait him in. Wam's getting close to that shoreline. I don't think RecoN was moving for the corner though. So yeah. Oh, wait, what are you? What?
Trebuchets. Trebuchets are firing away on it.
But like, why wasn't he moving towards the fight, Lidakor? Why was he not moving to? I'm so confused right now.
Because he's getting killed by the trebuchets. He's running for his life.
Just dodge and go kill. I mean, if he actually had played it there, he would have killed enough longbows to refund himself. It would have been a good play. Now it just looks like a misclick.
It might very well be. Right now, RecoN holding this position out there. 4 trebuchets out here for Wam. Keep in mind, now he can get trebuchets out very easily with the Wingard Palace.
That longbow count is full and fast, actually. I think Wam overextended this time. That was a mistake. He was trying to commit to cover the trebs to get through the infrastructure, but bites him in the ass. That's the lowest his longbow count has been this entire time, and now it's at risk of being wiped out. Crossbow count still looking good for RecoN. Opportunity to move in fast.
Wam may have gotten a little too bloodthirsty there. Felt that there was blood in the water. He had 6 trebuchets to take down towers with. Really wanted to get rid of those towers, but in the end, as you said, longbows just falling. He's down to 13 only, and suddenly his standing army is just almost non-existent. He has 54 military population, most of which is actually just trebuchets. His standing army, minimal, just a handful of hand cannoneers, longbows, and men-at-arms.
You can see the hesitation from RecoN. He does not want to commit outside of these outposts. They are the backbone of his army, which is why he held strong and didn't dive in. Missed opportunity though. Really could have turned the screws. Could have probably sniped out half of the trebuchets as they try to retreat, but instead, they still stand. Complete thorn in his side.
Because he wants to do something that he has done in game number 1 as well. He's got an advantageous position, and he's going to use that to cover a trade switch. He's already adding traders there, as you can see on the right side of the screen. This time around, though, that trade could be much more rateable, given the fact that he can't build walls. But part of the reason why he's so hesitant to push is because he has no desire to finish the game over here. He just wants to drag it out.
Dangerous play, but he feels like he needs to extend the game. It'd take too long to push in otherwise. He'd run out of gold before he could. So insulate himself. And it could work because so far, although Wam is building the horsemen, all that cavalry is being directed down the center, never onto the flanks.
Yeah, neither of the players are actually contesting the flanks. Both of them just feel that it's too risky to leave the central battlefield because you could easily find yourself being overrun.
Fair fall as well. There's too many troops stationed here, too much risk associated. Horsemen going in again. Will be the attack speed arrow coming up from RecoN. That should push Wam entirely away. The retreat, several hand cannoneers likely to go down.
It's a slow creeping push, and the problem here for Wam is that he's not gaining any ground. Slowly but surely Wam or RecoN is pushing. It's a very slow push, but RecoN is the one gaining ground, and behind this one, he's also going to be the one setting up the trade. And sure enough, the English will have the infinite gold from enclosures, but the rate at which you gather that is not going to be matching to the one that you get from the trade for the Mongols. That's the problem.
And it's important that RecoN is pushing like this, because if he wasn't in this position, Wam might think to check the flanks. Instead, he's too close to his base. He has to invest everything into this, and Wam is about to up the ante. Military Academy is being prepped, at which stage he's going to be in full Zerg mode with the Horsemen. Just a question mark on whether his economy can long-term keep up, considering the lack of access to wood he's about to encounter.
I mean, his army is a big question mark right now. Look at the battlefield. Only 18 longbows out there. Not a single unit standing anymore. I mean,
Military Academy needs to come fast if he wants to recover. I'm actually worried he doesn't have enough food right now. I mean, look at the difference. It's the fact that RecoN, despite the fact he has less food income, he's trading more efficiently. Most of his cost is in wood and gold, and he's fine there.
yeah, he's more than fine. Although gold could be an issue in the long run, but still, he's the one controlling the map, and he's just forcing Wam to invest every single bit of resources he's getting into defending here. Means that, as you said, Wam can't exploit the fact that RecoN cannot build walls. Wam can't spend a single unit to flank with.
Trade on Kawasan, not something you see often for anyone, let alone the Mongols. Yeah, RecoN, the guy who was one of few players who was spamming Silver Tree over the last few months on the ladders. He'll find his way to it. Feels like he's coming home. And it feels like this is going to get better and better as the minutes go on, because similarly to game one, Wam does not know that there is trade.
This time around, at least he has passive gold income, but keep in mind, the English are very reliant on wood. I think that's the bigger limitation here for Wam. He's been making longbows forever, and I wonder how much wood he has left inside his base. That is where things could get problematic for him.
He does at least have north side for free, more or less, but so far, you know, RecoN's just allowed that to be. He could easily intercept in that area, but it will weaken him in the center. He just wants the quickest access to his opponent's base.
That could easily turn into contested territory soon, so... yeah, like, in terms of safe wood, he's rather limited.
I'm actually surprised that RecoN hasn't gone for improved rating. Like, the amount of buildings he's killed, it definitely would have been worthwhile.
Easily. Or the stone bounty, even.
True. Especially considering how many these outpost emplacements he wants.
Yeah. He's going to improve biology now, so likely a heavy pivot into what is likely going to be mass horsemen now. I think he wants to start taking the fight to the base of Wam. Now he opened up the front. He now has a chance to run into the base. Before that, he wasn't able to. There was a castle blocking his way, but now he could send wave after wave of horsemen into the enemy eco. And it looks like now Wam decides that he needs to make something happen. He wants a counterattack to the north. Let's see what RecoN is going to do with that, though.
Outposts are heavily delayed over in that area, so should be able to intercept quick enough if he makes the move fast, but what's he going to be sacrificing in the meantime? Bombards could threaten him faster than he can threaten the Mongol base. That's the concern here. There's a lot of pop cap locked away in that cavalry rush.
Yeah, and keep in mind, RecoN is also building up his own cavalry, so he's going to have at least some units to slow down Wam's aggression with. And you see, King's Palace is now rather exposed over here. Here come the horsemen. This will be spotted by RecoN. Nothing to deal with those just yet, but at least there is a warning here for RecoN that something is coming his way, and he's going to have to address this.
There's an upgrade the outpost behind this. A lot of his base could be exposed to this rush through. He's going to peel the horsemen back. Head back to defend. Crossbows can't really do the same. He knows if he retreats away from this, it's going to allow Wam to recover his game. And, well, unlocked full English late game is no pushover. Coming through, and I can't help but feel that you maybe have a few more units to defend with if you just deleted that Baochuan. But it's still alive this entire time. And it's still done nothing this entire time. Looks pretty, I'll give you that. TC Rush goes straight underneath it because that's where all the food is going to be located. And RecoN is not pulling his villagers off. They're just continuing to gather. He's got 5k plus surplus. The reason why, by the way, is he wants to keep attention here so that Wam never spots the trade.
Yeah, that's the big thing. He just wants to make sure he's sacrificing villagers here, which sounds awkward, but he's got 5,000 food in the bank. He has population space that he needs, so he's going to be more than happy for the time being replacing those villagers with trade and some more army. And in the end, he's also working on a third DC, so he's going to be able to recover when it comes to the villager count, or at least that is the plan for him, although he's still struggling to clean up all these horsemen, and this is getting worrisome for him in the end.
Where are the new troops? You've got all these archery ranges, these stables, just push more troops. Like, this is looking ugly. The RecoN is finally going back for the raid bounty increase, but my god, I wish he got this a long time ago. I mean, the amount of extra resources he'd have by now is absurd.
Probably in the dimension of the thousands. Still, he's taking up buildings, and now Wam is going to be forced to take a decisive fight pretty soon. He has been amassing mostly hand cannoneers and longbows back at home. Cavalry is still inside the base of the opponent, but the problem is that you won't be given a better fight than you were given in the last 20 minutes, because once again, those towers, they will just be the key factor and essentially the backbone of RecoN's army, as you said.
Looks like it finally got cleaned up. RecoN clearly behind in terms of eco count now. Needs to make it count where it matters, because now he has access to a bigger military size. Needs to try and turn the screws. For the infrastructure being taken out means Wam a little bit slower to reproduce lost forces. You're also seeing him rely less on... no, I think that's a misclick. I was about to say less on Wingard armies with Trebs instead go for Raiders. Pretty sure that's a misclick.
Possible it is. Dive in now coming in for Wam. Tower is not yet with bombard emplacement. This is actually a pretty decent engagement here for Wam. He couldn't really get anything better than this right now.
Crossbows training the best they can, but between the longbows and the hand cannoneers, it feels almost impossible to stand your ground. Forced to back away, and I mean, these upgrades are coming through incredibly slowly, so some ground's going to be forfeited over, but inevitably Wam is going to be stuck in a rut again, unable to dive too deep here, especially seeing as the cavalry are now getting in range of the back line of cannon placements.
And a big thing is now, Wam, he could be exposed on the lumberjacking department to the north, so RecoN could start raiding his eco as well. In fact, RecoN needs to start doing that because you really feel like this tower creep is just a little too slow. You could easily swing this in your favor if you could just get one good raid in. Just imagine, like, in fact, not just imagine, but just take a look at how much damage Wam was able to cause with that counterattack. Slowed RecoN down so much.
I think RecoN's a little bit paranoid now. He's under 1,000 food a minute, so throw away an army of horsemen, you don't do enough damage, you're flatlining anyway. It's kind of been the story here, the hesitation, the slow approach that RecoN's been taking to this game. That hit from Wam, maybe a decisive one. Hitting him so hard in the food income means it's very difficult for RecoN to replace any lost forces here.
In fact, I would say for RecoN, I could justify sending villagers to the middle here for berries. That's probably the safest spot right now on the entire map when it comes to gathering food. And you need it. Because as you said, he needs to keep the momentum going. He doesn't want to drag this game out longer. Up to 185 population, he's once again, and he's still gaining some ground. Very slow, very methodical game over here, but he's definitely giving a recovery arc here for Wam.
Yeah, it doesn't take RecoN too long to recover from those raids, considering he has 4 TCs, but it's still, it's a gap in the meantime. Now, to his credit, he didn't lose too much for that gap. Horsemen now starting to surge with the front line again. You can see Knights, every time they try to dive in, it's just once you reach those cannon placements, trades just do not feel optimal anymore.
Indeed, horseman numbers once again increasing it for RecoN.
This is big. It's a mango push coming out from RecoN. He's going to surprise him. Stagger formation comes out from Wam, but it means he can't just stand his ground and take the long-range fights anymore against the crossbows. He's going to be forced to begin a crawling retreat.
That's a big game changer. Wam hasn't been making Springles for a long time. He's got no answer to this one, and a single volley could wipe out so much from Wam's army. This could be it for RecoN. This is the momentum that he's been waiting for.
And Wam has all this gold, but no way of now spending it valuably. You know, the Knight's not able to dive all these defenses. You can't go hand cannoneers against this. You've been discounted by this mango choice.
You have to find a way to snipe those mangonels, but